In New York, Shea Stadium filling up, a raw day and a damp day, but right now it's dry for the first time in about 16 hours as we get set for an on-time start for Game 3 of the National League Championship Series. The L.A. Dodgers taking on the New York Mets. Al Michaels at Shea. Of course, we began Tuesday night in Los Angeles when the Mets rallied with 3 runs in the 9th inning to defeat the Dodgers 3-2, but the Dodgers bounced back, knocked David Cone out after 2 innings in Game 2, and won it by a score of 6-3. So even at a game apiece, and a week from today, the World Series will be opening either here or in L.A., and what has to happen between now and then is for either of these teams to win 3 more games. Tim McCarver, what about the rainout last night? Will one team benefit more than the other from it?
I think the Dodgers will benefit slightly from it because of Oral Hershiser, and they have a better chance to go 2-1 in the series. And also, John Tudor has a chance to rest for 2 more days and rest that hip of his that had a spasm a week from yesterday. But think of how they have to earn it. When you think about the Dodgers in today's game, the Los Angeles Dodgers come into Shea, and the New York Mets have won 56 games over the course of the season, and that's one of the big reasons, I think, that they have such a tough time today.
Well, this is a key game, obviously, a pivotal game, and the Dodgers have changed their rotation with Hershiser going today, Ron Darling working for the Mets. What about you, Jim Palmer? What do you think? Will one team benefit more than the other?
Well, we go from short sleeves to long underwear, and that's how cold it is here today. And I would say that probably the pitchers are going to be the warmest people, not because working with an ex-catcher, I'm not going to say they work harder, but they will be moving around more. But I think, actually, the toughest thing in baseball, and as a former pitcher for 19 years, coming back and pitching against another team back-to-back, either back-to-back series during the season or back-to-back ball games in a playoff. If anybody can do it, of course, Oral Hershiser can. And probably the one thing, blustery weather, he is more of a control pitcher, even though Darling's had a great year, 14-1 here. I wonder about Hershiser and his contact lenses. Very windy. Will that affect him?
Well, we'll find out shortly. This game will be starting on time in just a minute or two. Hershiser for the Dodgers, Darling for the Mets.
The National League Championship Series, brought to you by the Heartbeat of America, today's Chevrolet. By Budweiser, Beechwood Age with that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. And by Goodyear Eagle Tires. Goodyear, because there really is a difference.
So the New York Mets have taken the field for Game 3 of the National League Championship Series, the delayed Game 3. Game 4 tomorrow night, Game 5 now, Monday at noon. And the Dodger lineup, Steve Sachs will be leading off at second base, and Mickey Hatcher, who was inserted into the lineup and played a big part in Game 2, is back in. Kirk Gibson, still looking for his first hit in the series. Mike Marshall has 4 hits in the 2 games. John Shelby bats 5th. The center fielder, Mike Scioscia, is the Dodger catcher. Jeff Hamilton is at third base. The shortstop is the switch-hitting Alfredo Griffin. And Oral Hershiser, because of the rainout, works today in Game 3 instead of Game 4. Ron Darling on the mound for the New York Mets. Sensational here at home, and 17-9 overall on the season, and good success this season against the Los Angeles Dodgers. And let's get the inside pitch on Ron Darling from Philadelphia Phillies slugger Mike Schmidt.
Ron Darling, the secret to Ron's success, in my opinion, is his great athletic ability and his attitude. He's one of the best fielding pitchers in the game. He just loves to play. He loves to pitch. He doesn't have overpowering stuff. He relies a great deal on finesse and deception. He has a running fastball that runs in on right-handed hitters and away from left-handed hitters. He must get ahead of hitters so he can stay out of the middle of the plate. His out pitch is his split-fingered fastball. He loves to get ahead of the hitter and get him to chase that split-finger pitch.
Ron Darling beat the Dodgers twice this season. He's 7-3 lifetime against Los Angeles. Sensational as you see at home. 3-8 on the road. So here we go, and Steve Sachs tries to bunt his way on. Foul ball on the wet grass, and the count is 0-1. So Sachs figuring he would take immediate advantage with the infield a bit slick, and not only is the grass wet, of course, in terms of the infielders making their charge, but they'll pick up a slick baseball as well. McReynolds, Wilson, and Strawberry in the outfield, with Jeffries at third, Johnson at short, Backman at second, and Hernandez at first. Gary Carter back of the plate, Darling on the mound. One of the interesting things about Darling, and you saw the tremendous disparity home and road, if there were a seventh game, it would be in L.A. on the road. Sachs pops it up. Johnson is there in the wind and makes the catch. One away. Not much of a problem on that pop-up, but as the day goes along, Shea Stadium with its tricky winds, and that could be a very big factor.
That's because of the horseshoe shape. Remember, Willie Mays told me that here's a guy who played in San Francisco Candlestick Park most of his career, that Shea Stadium was the toughest center field to play in the National League.
Hatcher grounds one foul, and the count, no balls and one strike. And a look around Shea Stadium on a raw, very chilly, and very damp day. It's misting at the moment. Check swing foul, and the count is 0-2.
You get a lot of those results from Ron Darling because of that moving, running fastball. Holds the ball with the seams, which is much easier on a day like today. You can go to your hand on the mound. Normally you have to walk off the mound during the season if it's not cold.
Inside, and the count 1 ball and 2 strikes.
Two kinds of fastballs, one with the seams, another one across the seams that he cuts away and acts like a slider.
That's off the end of the bat and spun to the right of the mound and shoveled by Darling to Hernandez for the out. So quickly 2 down here in the first inning, and that will bring up Gibson. The umpires, Joe West at the plate, Dutch Rennert, Bob Davidson, Paul Runge, Harry Wendelstadt down the line in left, and John McSherry down the line in right. Kirk Gibson, a question mark physically coming into this series because of the problems he had and all the time he had to take off in September with the hamstring pull. He's 0 for 6 in this series, but he did get aboard in Game 2 and steal second. 1-0 the count.
Go back the last 3 or 4 years, this would not be an ideal day to play behind Ron Darling. Took a lot of time, threw a lot of balls, a lot of 3-2 counts. This year, I think one of the reasons he's been so successful, I don't know why he hasn't done it on the road, but here at home is that he has said, I've tried to be a little bit more aggressive, throw strikes, get ahead in the count. Keep my infielders and outfielders on their toes, not back on their heels, not deep into the count.
2 out, bases empty, and the 1-1 to Gibson is fouled straight back.
Even though Gibson fouled those balls back the other way, I think he's the type of hitter that is going to be the toughest guy for Darling to handle. David Cohn and Dwight Gooden, the 2 pitchers whom Kirk faced in games 1 and 2, threw the high fastball. Darling, to be effective, has to stay down. And Gibson, a good low ball hitter.
Gone on strikes, and the Dodgers gone in order. After a half, it's the Dodgers nothing, and the Mets coming up.
No interference in any way with other fans.
Hershiser has seen this lineup before, namely Game 1. Mookie Wilson starts things in center. The switch hitting Jeffries bats second. Hernandez hits third. Darryl Strawberry, of course, is in the cleanup spot. And Kevin McReynolds, who is hitless in the 2 games, bats fifth. The switch hitting Howard Johnson is at shortstop. Gary Carter, the Game 1 hero, bats seventh. Wally Backman in the 8th spot. And Ron Darling, who set the Dodgers down in order in the top of the first inning. So now Orel Hershiser on 3 days rest goes to the mound. He and Danny Jackson tied for the National League lead in victories with 23. The inside pitch on Orel now from Mike Schmidt.
Orel Hershiser's best pitch is his curveball. He might throw that curveball at any time, and that's important in the playoffs because hitters can all hit fastballs. The off-speed pitches are the tough pitches to hit. He has a good fastball. We call it a heavy ball. It's a heavy sinking fastball that he runs in on right-handers' hands. He'll run it off the outside corner to a right-hand hitter and keep it away from left-handed hitters. A point to watch in this game tonight is whether or not pitching on 3 days rest tires out his arm and straightens that sinker out.
And we will look for that as Hershiser gets set to work on Mookie Wilson. Wilson hit .296 during the regular season. As a left-handed batter, he hit .311.
Tell you, I think any tired arm is going to be invigorated today with this weather.
Grounded to Griffin. It takes a nice, convenient hop for him, and Wilson becomes out number 1. Hershiser takes care of the leadoff hitter. Jeffries coming up, and the Dodgers defensively here in Game 3. The outfield of Gibson, Shelby, and Marshall. Hamilton at third, Griffin at short, Sachs at second, and again it's Hatcher at first. Franklin Stubbs was there in Game 1, and Mickey took over in Game 2. Scioscia back of the plate. And again, Hershiser, who worked 8 1/3 innings. In Game 1, he had the Dodgers, or had the Mets shut out through 8. Gave up 2 hits in the 9th, and out he came. And when it was over, the Mets had a 3-2 victory against Howell. 4-1 to Jeffries. 4 for 7 in the 2 games.
Excuse me, Al, if you go back to that first game, all of his 3 hits in that ball game were on fastballs. So what does Orel do tonight? Tries to get the curveball over. Now he misses with both of them, 2-0. As Mike Schmidt said, he can throw this curveball at any time.
3-0 the count.
In Game 1, Jeffries singled to right field, to left field, and up the middle.
And Jeffries on 4 pitches. So the Mets have the game's first base runner. Jeffries with good speed. Now the question about the running game today is the condition of the infield. Even though it's been covered over the past couple of days because of the rain, it's still much soggier than it would normally be.
I think so, but you know, they have a good ground crew here, and if you look out at the field, it does not look like it might be a little bit moist, does not look heavy. Of course, Jeffries has such great speed, can run. The guy at home plate that can handle the bat.
And a sinker ball pitcher. I know what you're leading to.
Yes. Let's open some holes.
Hernandez takes a strike. 0-1.
You notice that stiff front leg of Hershiser, that gives him an added advantage when he goes to first base. Johnny Sane used to teach that. Jim Cott, one of the leading proponents to the stiff front leg.
1-1.
What Orel Hershiser does is what most pitchers did this year when they do so much running, especially in the National League, is what we call the slide step. He automatically already has that. He's been doing that for years. Very difficult to run on. You talk about that magic number, getting the ball to home plate under 1.4 seconds. I would say he does it probably a little over 1 second. So he's going to give his catcher today, Mike Scioscia, a great chance of throwing out anybody that's going to attempt to run. About the only thing he has to worry about with Greg Jeffries or any base runner is to make him stop. Now, see, that's a balk move. What he does is breaks his knee, tries to get Jeffries to lean towards second, and then comes to first base. You do that a lot, that you could call a balk. Because basically, you just kind of drop your left knee and drop your shoulder at the same time.
2-1 on Hernandez.
Or if
Jeffries at first base and 1 out.
Or if you do it a lot, you can allow an umpire to get used to that move, and they think that even though it is technically a balk, that they're used to seeing it. Consequently, they don't call it. He does it all the time. He's consistent with it.
runners will tell you what they do is look at that front leg of a pitcher, and when he lifts his heel, that's when they assume he's going to home plate. So if you can come up with a move where you lift your heel but you don't go home, you go to first, occasionally you'll get a pickoff.
Jeffrey stole 5 bases. He was up for about a month. And he's the type of base runner who will give you 40, maybe 50 steals over the course of a full year. 3-1.
I'm talking to Wally Backman, who normally hits in the second position until Jeffries was called up. His numbers have progressively gone down as you look at Tommy Lasorda, Ron Pernoski on his right. As far as stealing bases, because he does not want to take the hole away from Hernandez, and then you certainly don't want to run with 2 outs and Strawberry at the plate.
Time was called. Time called by the plate umpire, Joe West. So 3 balls and 1 strike on Hernandez. No score. Bottom of the first inning. Jeffries, who walked first base.
League average is about 30%.
Fouled away in the count, 3-2.
Get an idea of what a good move to home plate will do to a catcher. Converse, of course, is the way the Mets pitchers are with Gary Carter, who's only thrown out 21%. Don't hold runners on that well. Darling may be an exception, even though they've run on him a little bit more this year.
We're going to have a chance to see right now because Jeffries is going.
3-2, 1 out. He goes, and the pitch is hit foul off to the left and out of play, and Hernandez breaks his bat.
You'll see a lot of balls. Keith hit that ball off the end of the bat. And on a cold day like today, you'll see more balls hit off the end of the bat because the hitters are very, very strong. You couple that with what Mike Schmidt said about this being the playoff series, and guys are better fastball hitters. The adrenaline's really running, and Keith hits it off the end of the bat, breaks his bat.
A few guys that did not wear gloves. Jeffries did not wear gloves out in California where the temperatures are in the 70s. Today, he had his gloves on.
Shea Stadium still a lot of empty seats, as you can see. Not only is the weather terrible, but the people who held the tickets for last night's game get to come today. If you bought a ticket for today's game, you don't get to come until tomorrow night.
So this is really yesterday's game.
Right. Jeffries goes, and the pitch is fouled away. Lights are on a gloomy day. Game 4 tomorrow night at 8 Eastern time. And again, the 5th game now pushed back until Monday, which would have been a travel day. That will be a day game. It will start at noon Eastern Monday. Game 6, if necessary, Tuesday in L.A., and a 7th game will be played Wednesday in Los Angeles. Again, the World Series will start either here or at Dodger Stadium a week from tonight. Hershiser checking Jeffries.
Take a look at that pickoff move. See how he breaks his knee? That's almost a move to home plate. A lot of umpires, and I thought pitching in spring training, the National League umpires are much stricter with box rules than American League umpires.
There it was again.
And he was very lucky. He threw the ball right into Jeffries. Catcher with no chance of reaching that ball, but hit Jeffries and stayed there.
Yeah, when that left knee buckles, you're really committed to go home. You're deceiving the runner.
This is a
There's
better
the
angle.
buckle right there, yeah.
That is a balk move, and I'm surprised that has not been called. You know, and really, this is the true story. You pitch in spring training, pitch against American League umpires, they would not call the balk. I go up to West Palm, someplace where either the Atlanta Braves or the Montreal Expos, and the minute you try that move, the runner goes right down to second because it's a balk. But again, I think what you're saying is true. He does it so often, they're allowing him to get away with it.
3-2, 1 out. Jeffries goes, and the pitch is ball 4. So Hershiser struggling through the first inning. Threw a lot of pitches to Hernandez, 9 in fact, and now Strawberry comes to the plate. Strawberry hit .269 during the regular season. For the second consecutive year, 39 home runs. In game 1, he was 1 for 4 against Hershiser and forced Orel out of the game with a 9th inning double. Jeffries at second, Hernandez at first, and 1 out. Good breaking pitch. And again, it's like that Jim Murray line. He never met a pitch he didn't like. In the first game, just that 1 walk, and already 2 here in the first inning in game 3. One and one.
Murray also said in that article that Darryl Strawberry was like a mule skinner that swung a bullwhip over a borax team. And he does. The way he curls that bat, that's where he gets his power. And that's also why he can't pull the ball as effectively as a lot of guys. He's got too far to come with that arc. Watch how he curls the bat. He does it even more when he starts to swing.
2 and 1.
He's always been susceptible to the ball inside and right. Of course, Hershiser does not pitch inside that much. Ron Peranowski runs out.
So Hershiser finding it difficult really to get into rhythm. And again, it wouldn't figure to be the 3 days rest. I would think the weather would be far more of a factor. Again, as we mentioned at the beginning of the telecast, twice working on 3 days rest during the streak, and on each occasion a shutout.
Well, it's funny about the wind. We had a graphic we didn't show you, but they said that basically wind was only about 7 or 8 or 9 miles per hour, maybe 10 at the most. It seems to be more, but the wind can take away your curveball. It did it in Toronto. It just kind of makes it, instead of breaking sharply, it kind of backs it up. That's not a good pitch to throw to Strawberry.
That's grounded to Griffin. He goes to Sachs for 1, back to first, not in time. So Strawberry legs it safely down the line to keep the inning alive as Jeffries advances to third.
Up next.
And with 2 down, it brings up McReynolds.
Fielder, McReynolds.
Very close. Only the speed of Strawberry, who looks like he just loped. Look, good call. Dutch Renard just beat the throw.
So the Mets with runners at first and third, 2 down, and McReynolds at the plate. And it's popped up. Shallow center. Sachs goes out, and Hershiser escapes a jam in the first. So at the end of 1 in game 3, Dodgers nothing, Mets nothing. Pretty good idea there as to how Ron Darling fared against the Dodgers this season. He beat them twice. Once going all the way, once he was relieved in the 9th inning, and he starts the 2nd inning with a good breaking pitch. Marshall out in front of it, and the count is 0-1. Marshall, Shelby, and Scioscia in the 2nd inning with no score. Late rain again falling at Shea as Marshall fights it off and grounds it foul outside third. Darling quickly out in front. 0-2. And you can see it right there. It rained from about 4 o'clock on yesterday through the night and drizzling here today.
Tailing fastball inside, and Marshall got around on it very, very well.
0-2 pitch is up and in, and the count 1-2.
That's what happens when you go 4 for 8 in your first 2 games.
And also when your weakness is on the inside part of the plate. Yeah. But most hitters will tell you that when you get 2 strikes where they look away, so you're diving, and he comes back with a breaking ball. So the The 0-2 pitch was a purpose pitch, try to get him off the plate and then get him out with something else. Mike Marshall, and most of the hits have been on balls away, and they've all been hard stuff. I think with the exception of one hit off Gooden.
3-2.
You take a real positive situation, an 0-2 count. Now you run it back where a leadoff hitter you don't want to get on. The big difference, leadoff guy coming on versus getting the first guy out is like 50% of the time he scores, 16% if you get the first guy out.
And inside, so Marshall walks after Darling had gotten ahead 0-2. Marshall becomes the Dodgers' first base runner, leading off here in the second inning, and it will bring up the switch hitting John Shelby.
That's a remarkable percentage, the difference between getting the first hitter out and having the leadoff hitter on. 34% more he scores.
I think psychologically, too, Jim, when the first hitter gets on by a base hit, it's not nearly as bad as when the first hitter is walked. Seems like it's a gift, or more of a gift, as I guess any walks are.
Shelby at the plate takes a strike. Shelby, a streaky hitter, and I guess that would be best illustrated by the fact that he got very hot in May and wound up with a 24-game hitting streak, the longest in the National League this season. But cool in the first 2 games, 0 for 8. And grounds it foul outside first, and the count 0-2.
Well, John with 128 strikeouts during the season, and I think that kind of exemplifies what kind of strike zone. He has a very big strike zone, chases a lot of bad pitches, but when you throw him strikes, you're doing him a favor. And of course, Darling wants to keep the ball out of the center of the plate.
1-2.
I think your very simple definition of pitching, Jim, certainly applies to John Shelby. Stay ahead and expand the strike zone. That is a great philosophy on pitching.
Two and two with Marshall at first base. Nobody out. Second inning, no score.
Well, even a great hitter like Wade Boggs will expand the strike zone with 2 strikes. Now, of course, he has so much self-confidence, he feels he can still hit in that situation. He'll take a lot of pitches because he wants to see a lot of the movement on the ball, the break on the curveball, how the split finger fastball goes or whatever. But most hitters expand the strike zone with 2 strikes.
And it's 3-2. So Darling went 0-2 and lost Marshall, and now went 0-2 with Shelby, and he's 3-2.
Good discipline by John. That was a good split-fingered fastball.
Now you've got a case of Marshall at first base without real good speed and a non-contact man at the plate. And so Marshall stays, and the pitch is ball 4. And for Darling, he begins the inning by going 0-2 on the first 2 batters and walking both. So the Dodgers have runners at first and second with nobody out, and Mike Scioscia is the batter. So now with Scioscia coming up, the Mets have to think about the bunt. Hamilton is on deck. Scioscia wants him off Atano to run through the signs again. There's Jeffrey shortened up at third.
Darling led the Mets pitchers, their starters, in double plays with 20, and he needs one now.
And the runners go, and it's fouled away off to the left, 0-1.
That's a hit and run. That's something you often talk about in spring training and rarely use during the season. Think about the logic to that play. Darling has been struggling, and now runners are taking off, and he has got his best contact hitter up there, Mike Scioscia, who struck out only 31 times this year. Such a logical play. Darling trying to throw a strike after walking 2 hitters.
Now he bunts, and it's a beauty up the first baseline, and Hernandez has to flip it and flips it by Backman. Marshall will come in to score as Backman chases it down. Shelby stops at third, and down to second goes Scioscia. So the Mets very much expecting Scioscia to swing away with Hernandez playing back at first base and then charging and flipping it behind Backman, and the Dodgers take advantage and lead 1-0.
This is a play so rarely you'll see a first baseman have to make. You see a second baseman, a shortstop sometimes having to do it. Hernandez 10 gold gloves. That's a rarity. Very difficult play, and the reason was, I think, Socha surprised them where they bunted the ball. Normally in that situation, you bunt the ball down the third baseline, and that's where Darling broke.
It's just a matter of the Mets infield being outfoxed 2 times. The hit and run on the first pitch, and now Socha bunting the ball down to Hernandez, who normally would be in a shallower depth in that situation.
So Hamilton is at the plate. It scored a single and an error on Hernandez. And Hamilton fouls it away. So a base hit for Socha, an error on Hernandez, no run batted in, and the Dodgers lead it 1-0. Joey Amalfitano, the third base coach.
The squeeze right now more remote than it would be if there were 1 out. With nobody out, there are a lot of ways that you can score a runner without having to resort to the squeeze play. Fly ball, ground out.
Exactly. One way here is a grounder to short or second with the infield playing back.
Right.
1-1. So there's the Mets alignment. They're going to give up another run on a ground ball.
And actually, Ron Darling would take a look at Davey Johnson. Cannot be real happy what he's seen. His pitcher, who has had excellent control this year, the last couple of years has averaged about 4 walks per 9 innings. This year, about 2.5 walks the first 2 guys, and then his guy that won 10 gold gloves makes an error. But you're thinking, Ron Darling, 1 run. You'll give him another run, stay away from the big inning, even though you're pitching against a guy like Hershiser, who's on a hot streak. You can't allow them to have a big inning, not early in the ball game in these conditions.
And he walked 2 after getting ahead on both hitters, 0-2. 2-1 the count on Hamilton. And he hits a one-hopper backhanded by Backman. That'll score a run. So Hamilton grounds out, but Shelby comes in to score. And on the play, Socha advances to third. Lasorda loves to squeeze in situations such as this upcoming here, with a runner at third and 1 out, and Alfredo Griffin at the plate.
Think about what kind of out that was by Hamilton. Not only did he score the run, but he pushes Socha to third base with this rope to second. A nice play by Backman. So Hamilton, really 2 objectives there. One to score the run for an RBI, the other to push Socha to third, and now the possibility of the squeeze.
Infield plays in, and Griffin up there to swing away and misses. There's a big difference in Hamilton grounding out to second as opposed to grounding out to short.
Right.
In that case, if he grounds out to short, the runner at second probably remains at second, even though the run scores. By grounding it to the right side, as Tim says, he does 2 things. And forces the Mets to bring the infield in. Dodgers on top 2-0. 1 out. Breaking pitch is fouled away, and the count is 0-2.
It appeared to be the first breaking pitch that he has thrown all day. So you go back to that first game, what made Griffin be able to drive in the second run off Griffin? Same situation. Brought the infield in. He hit a ball off his fist. It may have been an out to the second baseman because of the infield playing in, and looped into right field for the second Dodger run. And Hamilton clearly intentionally tried to do what he did. Inside-out swing.
Away, and the count 1-2 as partner bluffs to throw to third.
Of course, pitching in the wind is a lot like sometimes playing golf when it's windy. Take a look at an 0-2 pitch, split-fingered fastball. Watch that ball kind of just move down and away, a little bit outside the strike zone. Again, that's a luxury you have when you have an 0-2 count, but it has not worked to Darling's benefit this inning.
Darling bluffing a move toward third. Amalfitano going through the signs. The Dodgers have squeezed with 2 strikes.
The reason that you're taking more of a chance, however, in this situation is that you can pitch out and it won't hurt the Mets. It's still 2-2. If it gets to 3-2, though, watch out.
And he swings and misses, and down he goes. So Griffin strikes out. Socha's still at third, and now 2 out now, and the infield can go back to normal depth as Oral Hershiser comes to the plate.
Well, this is what I call getting a hitter off balance. Look how he's out on his, really on his toes, trying to stay back, but look at hands come forward, body comes forward, well before the pitch is there.
Hershiser, 129 for the season, and as we pointed out the other night, led the league in sacrifice bunts with 19, which is not applicable here with 2 out. But he's going to bunt anyway and fouls it off in the count 0-1.
He tried to bunt twice the first game. He struck out once trying to bunt with 2 strikes against Dwight Gooden, and he tries to, looks like he's looking toward first, but the bat angle looked like he was trying to bunt the ball down third.
0-1. And he bunts again, foul, in the count 0-2.
Might be going for the hat trick.
Yes. Dodgers on top, 2-0. Temperature in the low 40s. Tommy Lasorda taking his club east after a Game 2 victory with a series squared at a game apiece. Darling ahead, 0-2. 1-2.
Darling had 7 wild pitches on the season. I'll tell you, you're very apprehensive when you're a catcher back there, and you know a pitcher, to be effective, has to keep the ball down, especially the split finger.
2-2.
Gary looks almost handcuffed on some of those pitches, doesn't he, Jim?
Of course, I saw the other night Rich Gedman got handcuffed by Lee Smith, but we're talking a lot more velocity. This ball, it almost looks like it handcuffs him because of the movement. And again, this is what the wind does today. The ball will move a little bit more. It's like hitting a golf ball in wind. If you slice it, it slices more. If you hook it, it hooks more.
A looper to shallow right, and Strawberry there to make the catch. But the Dodgers get 2 in the second, and after a 1.5 lead, 2-0. Goodyear blimp, I would imagine, buffeted in this wind, but sailing high above Shea Stadium, the Goodyear blimp Enterprise, on this raw day in New York. Light rain falling, 2-0. The Dodgers on top at the end of 1.5. I asked Dave Johnson before the game if last night's rainout would eventually benefit one club or the other.
Well, I think it might help the Dodgers a little bit in that it can give Tudor a couple more days, and he could probably use that. And Hershiser, you know, he's going to be right on track if we get this one in.
And Hershiser ran into trouble in the first inning. He walked Jeffries and Hernandez, but extricated himself from further difficulty. A different story, though, for Ron Darling in the second inning, as the Dodgers, without getting a ball out of the infield, scored 2 runs, 2-0 L.A.
Kind of a double-edged sword, Davey, talking about John Tudor, because while it does give him 2 extra days rest starting tomorrow night, he didn't start last night, which means that he may be only to start 1 time during the playoff series. There's no way he's going to be able to come back on Wednesday, for instance, after he starts tomorrow night, if he goes 6 or 7 innings.
Well, Tudor's going to pitch tomorrow night, and then Lasorda doesn't know about Monday, as Howard Johnson looks at a strike in the count 0-1. He has really 2 choices as far as Monday is concerned. He could bring Tim Belcher back on 3 days rest, or he could start Tim Leary, who won 17 games during the regular season, but struggled down the stretch. That's grounded to the right side, charged by Sachs. That takes care of Johnson. 1 away here in the bottom of the second inning, and it will bring up Gary Carter. The Dodger Brain Trust with Rick Dempsey as well. Ron Peronoski and Bill Russell, trainer Bill Bueller.
You're not including Dempsey in that Brain Trust?
Well, I added him to the Brain Trust.
Okay.
Only a former teammate could say that, right, Jim?
Gary Carter grounds it foul into the Dodger dugout, and the count is 0-1.
Rick Dempsey lost a chance to start this afternoon with last night's rainout.
That's right.
Sid Fernandez was scheduled to pitch for the Mets, and Rick starts against most left-handers, has this season at least.
That means his start will be delayed. That one is out of play until Monday, because what Davey Johnson will do is go with Dwight Gooden tomorrow night in the 4th game, and then Sid Fernandez, who would have pitched a 4th game had it been played today, will be on the mound Monday.
You know, when you're getting old is when there's you look at Dwight Gooden there, but you talk to your former teammates and they tell you their son, senior in high school, maybe will go to Stanford. So I guess maybe we should include Dempsey. I mean, if his son could go to Stanford, he's got it from somewhere. It couldn't be his wife, Joni. A star on the runway last night. I said, gee, he's going to go to Stanford? Must have got it from you. And then Rick gets it. Interesting thing about Tudor, though, I talked to John Tudor, and he said, I don't know how I'm going to feel. I haven't thrown since Monday. You know, he had the shoulder problems, arthroscopic surgery. He said the elbow still bothers him.
Grounded slowly up the line, and Hershiser makes the tag on Carter going by. One unassisted for the second out. And with 2 down and the bases empty, Wally Backman will be coming to the plate. 2 out. Bottom of the second inning, 2-0. The Dodgers on top. And following this game, we will have regional action for you as Hershiser makes the tag on Carter. College football, you'll either see Ohio State against Indiana or Washington taking on Arizona State following baseball.
Tell you, we almost saw a preview of that college football game with Carter going down first.
I would like to think that he would rather have just kind of backed off and make the throw, but when the runner gets by you, you don't have enough time to get to the side and make the throw. So you do what's not really easy because Carter's a big guy. Now take a look. He gets the ball just about when Carter's coming by. If he goes to his left, he's more or less going to be in the way.
To Griffin. And Backman is gone. So 3 up and 3 down. And at the end of 2 full, it remains Dodgers 2, Mets nothing. And we'll be back after this from your local station. Radar from the blimp and the indication there of the showers in the area. We do know that with the intermittent rain as we start the 3rd inning. Dodgers on top 2-0 in game 3. And Steve Sachs leading off. Sachs, Hatcher, and Gibson before a frosty crowd at Shea. 1-1. Sachs popped out in the 1st inning. Steve is 2 for 9 in the championship series. 2-1.
Interesting point that Mike Schmidt brought out in the inside pitch is that Darling 3rd in the National League with most home runs given up behind Shane Rawley and Tom Browning, who was 18-5 yet led the National League with 32 home runs.
That's hit into right field for a base hit. So a line single to right by Sachs, his 3rd hit of the championship series, the Dodgers' 2nd hit in the game, and it will bring up Hatcher. Hatcher, very instrumental in the Dodger victory in game 2, replacing Franklin Stubbs, and this double coming in the 2nd inning with the score 2-0, scoring 2 and making it 4-0, and the Dodgers never looked back.
Tommy Lasorda getting Joey Malfitano's attention down there, and Hatcher backing out. You can do one of a number of things here, and Sachs now wants to talk to Manny Mota and get his legs a little loose. He may have had a cramp there. I mean, Hatcher can hit and run. He can bunt. You can send Sachs on a straight steal. Tommy's Lasorda with a lot of options here.
Hatcher did not have a sacrifice all season. And it backs him off, and the count 1-0.
Well, he handles the bat so well that, as Timmy said, you have so many options. You don't have to have a straight sacrifice. Hit the ball behind him. Of course, the field is getting a little bit more wet because of this rain. So
Tell you, the worst scenario for the Dodgers is to have this game rained out before 5 innings and lose Hershiser.
There goes Sachs. It's hammered at and missed, and Carter drops the ball. So on a hit and run, Hatcher doing everything to protect Sachs, swinging at a pitch well above his head. And the Dodgers get a break when Carter drops the ball. No play at second.
It appears to be a hit and run, mainly because he took about 3 looks.
Oh, yeah, it was.
He was stealing. He is not going to look at all, most likely, and if he did, would be almost till he gets to second base.
Now the 1-1 pitch is grounded to the right side, so Hatcher does his job advancing the runner as Hernandez flips to Darling covering. And the Dodgers have a runner at third with 1 out, and Gibson coming to the plate.
Mickey Hatcher looks like he's using a hatchet to swing at that ball. Axing down on it, and that's probably one of the reasons that Gary missed the ball. You know, that's one of the reasons also that Hatcher hasn't sacrificed all season. He handles the bat too well. You don't need a sacrifice in that situation.
Now here's an interesting situation right now. The Dodgers already leading 2-0. The Mets infield with 1 out and Sachs at third. They have Johnson back at short, Backman back at second, but we'll see if they begin to creep in as the pitch comes to the plate.
The Mets don't do that, though. They're playing him back, and I think that's the wrong move.
Well, it's as simple as this. You hit a grounder to short or second, the score is 3-0, and that means you need 4 to win, at least.
And again, I think Davey may be thinking, here's a guy, 31 steals. If he does get a base, you play him in, he gets a base hit, it's 3-0, he's going to steal second base.
And that's grounded to the right side, and that's exactly what happened. With the infield back, Backman throws at Gibson, but the Dodgers get another run, and it makes the score 3-0.
Of course, I'm not saying it's right by doing that, because what happens, Gibson also is the type of guy that strikes out a lot, 120 strikeouts. So you play the infield back, you concede the run, and you can see right there, he hits it to the middle infielders, and it's 3-0.
Especially with Oral Hershiser on the mound, you're not going to get many runs off of him to begin with. I mean, here's a guy who's pitched 59 consecutive scoreless innings. He gave up 2 runs to the Mets in the 9th inning of Game 1, so you're not going to beat his brains out. I really don't think you ought to have the infield back in that situation.
I agree. Marshall pops it up in foul ground, and Gary Carter comes back and might have a play and does. But the Dodgers get another run in the third, and after 2.5, it's 3-0 Los Angeles. Shea Stadium in New York. Al Michaels with Jim Palmer, Tim McCarver. Game 3, the Dodgers on top 3-0. 3 runs, 2 hits for the Dodgers. No runs, no hits, and 1 error for the Mets. Hershiser works on Darling, who fouls it away in the count 0-1. Darling, then the top of the order, Mookie Wilson and Greg Jeffries.
Nice batting average by Darling, 3 for 3 the last day to get it to 220. I think it would behoove him to get a hit here to trailing 3-0.
1-2. Again, the Dodger run in the top of the third, when you examine it, Sachs that single, and then Carter drops the ball as Hatcher swings at a pitch above his head. Sachs steals second as Darling strikes out 1 away, and then the 2 ground outs netting the Dodgers a third run. Earlier, Davey Johnson felt the Dodgers had the advantage because of last night's rainout, the extra rest for Tudor. What does Lasorda think about that?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, Tudor was ready to pitch yesterday. I don't know how well he's going to be. This is something that we're going to have to see tomorrow, as I said before. I don't know where the advantage lies. I really don't, Al. When you start thinking about a rained-out game and that the advantage goes with you, believe me, in most cases, it always backfires on you. So I'm going to just say right now that we're very, very happy that we can have Oral today, and then again if we need it.
And right now, particularly happy because Oral Hershiser has a 3-0 lead with 1 out. Bases empty in the bottom of the third inning.
He is wasting no time delivering the ball. You give a guy like that 3-0 who's on a roll,
right.
and he is going to pitch very, very quickly because he knows what he has to do.
And the Mets, I mean, they gift-wrapped that Dodger run in the third inning. Down 2-0 with a runner at third and one out, and Gibson at the plate with the infield back.
Occasionally you have to take a risk, and of course there is a risk. You know, if he does hit a single through a drawn infield, he may steal second, but it is raining. You give him another run, and I've been in this position, it makes you relax a little bit more on the mound.
Well, I think the key is with Hershiser pitching and the way the Mets have been hitting. I mean, the Mets have scored 3 runs in both games, and there's Hershiser, who's not allowed more than 4 runs in a game in his last 10 starts.
Lasorda will definitely enjoy dinner tonight with a victory in Game 3, because he would know not only would it be up in the series 2-1, but if it went 7, he's got his man back on the mound as Wilson hits it foul off to the left. So it's still 2-2. 1 out, bases empty, bottom of the third inning. Again, you'd have to play 5 innings to make it an official game. We still have a steady rain, but a very light rain. The type of rain you can play through as Wilson strikes out, but it rolls away from Socha, and Mookie gets the break. Hershiser's second strikeout is a wild pitch that enables Wilson to reach. So 1 on and 1 out, and Jeffries the batter.
You can't strike somebody out with a wild pitch, and here's a perfect example. The ball about 59 feet, well in front of home plate. Socha makes a nice try, but the ball just spins away from him.
In the 59th consecutive scoreless inning, Marvell Wynn of the San Diego Padres got on to lead off the 10th inning in that exact fashion.
And Hershiser had to bear down to take care of the Padres and stranded a man at third to break Drysdale's record. Jeffries at the plate. 1-0 the count. Wilson 15 steals in 19 attempts. But again, with all of the rain yesterday, even though the field was covered in the rain so far, a very muddy infield. A broken bat, one hopper through the middle for a base hit. Wilson will stop at second. The Mets with their first hit, and runners at first and second, and Jeffries is now 5 for 8 in the playoffs.
Yet another fastball. And it's up. And Hershiser, sinker baller, cannot pitch Jeffries there, or really any of the Met hitters. Again, you got to give Jeffries a lot of credit. He hits the ball right where it's pitched. If it's away, he goes to left. If it's inside, he's quick enough bat to pull it. Tommy hawked that ball.
Everybody talks about the pressure of the playoffs. Well, obviously, Jeffries hasn't felt that yet.
Even though he admitted he was as nervous as he's ever been prior to Game 1. Hernandez now with runners at first and second and 1 out. Dodgers leading 3-0 in the bottom of the third. Chopper foul, 0-1. Jeffries not only with 5 hits in the series, he's 4 for 5 against Hershiser plus a walk. Retreat. So Hernandez gives it a ride to deep left center field, but it stays in near the 371 mark.
What you talked about before the game, that when he usually hits the ball that way, he has enough hang time, and here you see the swing. And he drives this ball, but he hits it in the air. Now last year, a little liver ball, a ball might have gone out. You can see right here, the ball is up in the air. Gibson has time to run under it, makes a nice catch. I'm sure he really knew where the fence was, but he hung with it to the second out.
Tell you, fly balls are no routine outs today because you got that wind and rain whipping down on your eyes. Look up there, you'd think there are a million balls in the air.
Strawberry takes a strike. 0-1.
One thing to point out, when Hershiser starts throwing a lot of fly balls, that means he is not making the pitches that he wants to make. Many more ground balls than fly balls. 1.8 percentage. In other words, he throws 1.8 more fly balls or ground balls than he does fly balls. So when he gets the ball up and you see the ball going in the air, he is not throwing the sinker that he wants to throw.
That was only the second ball hit in the air by the Mets. McReynolds popped out in the first inning, and Hernandez driving one to left here. Everything else has been on the ground. One pitch, just missing. 2-1.
3 straight fastballs inside to Strawberry. And this ball tailing back over the inside part of the plate. That mound is really getting shaky now. Watch his left foot. See that sliding. Now, Jim, that's the worst thing that could happen to a mound, that wet mound.
Get into the right field corner for extra bases. Mookie Wilson comes in to score. Jeffries is being held at third on a double by Strawberry. It's 3-1.
With the clutch double in the 9th inning of Game 1 comes through again. Another curveball, interestingly. That's what he hit in the first game. Sam Palazzo came all the way down the line, and he did hold Greg Jeffries at third base. And even though Jeffries slipped, Steve Sachs was too far away to throw behind him. There's a big difference with a runner at first base on a double hit down the right field line as opposed to a double down the left field line.
And you could see how soggy the outfield was. That ball just died as Marshall retrieved it. McReynolds popped out in the first inning. The Mets with runners at second and third, and 2 out. Outside. So Hershiser is asked to get 4 outs in the inning, in essence. Jeffries on his way to third.
Saw Palazzo going up the line. Now, see, the reason that Sachs didn't throw behind Jeffries was he had to throw all the way across the diamond. Take too big a chance.
2-0 pitch taken for a strike. And again, the key play in this inning was the strikeout on the wild pitch, which has given the Mets the extra out, and they've been able to capitalize. 2 out, 1 in. 3-1 Dodgers, and the count is 2-1 on McReynolds. McReynolds looking for his first hit in the series. He's 0 for 8, and it's 2-2.
That was hittable there. That was a fat part of the plate fastball.
It's interesting what you said about the curveball to Strawberry. 2-1. I'm sure that Orel figured, well, I'll just trick him with a curveball, but he threw it right where Strawberry likes it, which is down and in. So he did fool him. But Darrell's strong enough. Now, if he throws the curveball to Kevin McReynolds, the ball is not going to be coming into him. It's going to be going away. Somewhat of a more effective pitches. As you look at the footing, and what you talked about, Timmy, the front foot is the most important. Not to mention, of course, the foot you push off with. Because if you land and slip, it affects your control. You plant that front foot, and you have something to really land on and be able to control the ball. If it slips, you can miss by 3 or 4 inches. That's enough.
Breaking pitch got him, and so McReynolds is 0 for 9, but the Mets get a run in the third, and at the end of 3, Dodgers 3, Mets 1.
The National League Championship Series, brought to you by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light.
Shea Stadium in New York. Where is Indian summer when we need it? temperature in the 40s. Here's Jeffries again heading toward third base.
Watch Sam Perlazzo, the third base coach, move up the line toward home plate. Now he disappears from your picture. What he's doing is see what develops on the right side with Steve Sachs. He would have sent Greg Jeffries had Sachs bobbled the ball. That's the luxury you have with a ball hit to the right side of the field that you don't have with a ball hit down the left field line, doubling a runner to third base.
But he had to hold him at third, and he was stranded there when McReynolds struck out. Now Shelby to start the fourth inning. 1-0 the count. Shelby, Scioscia, and Hamilton. 3-1 Dodgers here in Game 3. 1-1. Game being played in a very light rain. The forecast calls for improvement this afternoon, which is not good news necessarily for the Mets, because once you play 5 innings, it is official. Though in the history of baseball, there has never been a rain-shortened postseason game hit out of play. There have been games that have started and have been postponed before they were official, but no game, as Shelby comes back to get a new bat, no game was ever official in a rain-shortened fashion. In other words, every game in the history of postseason baseball that has had a final score has been a 9-inning game or an extra inning game. 2-2 pitch is whacked into center field for a base hit. So Shelby is on. Starts the fourth inning with a single to center. It will bring up Mike Scioscia. Of course, one reason
catcher, Mike Scioscia.
you don't have a rain-shortened game in postseason with this much at stake. If you have a rain delay, you would wait until midnight. Meanwhile, we can tell you that tonight the American League Championship Series continues. Oakland, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Pacific Time. A's lead 2-0 after their pair of wins at Fenway Park. And Bob Welch works for Oakland tonight against Mike Boddicker. Shelby at first base. John, good speed, stole 16 bases this season. And the pitch to Scioscia is outside, ball 1. 1-0.
Well, again, it's another situation where Tommy Lasorda has a lot of options. Right. He can bunt, he can steal, he can use that hole you're looking at right there on the right side. He has a contact hitter. Amazing thing, what a frustrating game it is. Here's Darling, he's trailing 3-1. They've only hit 2 balls hard. Sachs and a single by Shelby.
You could read Lasorda's lips. He said 1 ball and no strikes. That would imply reminding himself that the hitter's ahead in the count, and it's a good time for a hit and run.
And again, Scioscia, a good contact hitter at the plate. If you don't watch the Dodgers that much, well, you see a big burly catcher, and you figure, well, here's a guy who hits a lot of home runs and strikes out a lot. He's the exact opposite. It's very few home runs and almost always makes contact.
Never in his professional career has he struck out more than he's walked in 13 years.
One and two. Nobody out. Shelby goes, and it's a half-swing little nubber back to the box, and Darling throws him out. So Scioscia grounds to the mound with Shelby going on the pitch. John now in scoring position with 1 out, and it will bring to the plate Jeff Hamilton.
Take another look at the pitcher's mound, and here's Ron Darling, I can't hear. Whatever, the pitcher is pushing off, and you can see him slip. What is his name?
Wayne Garland.
Yeah, right, yeah. I thought he tore his rotator cuff. Jeez. It's easy to speak in cold weather. Anyway.
Hamilton is at the plate. 1-0. It's that kind of day. It's a little tough to get your lips moving.
I was going to say, part of our job as broadcasters is to bring you the feeling at the ballpark.
Yeah,
it's impossible today.
The feeling. I'll tell you what the feeling is, all right. It's the feeling of the Winter Olympics. Here's the 1-0 pitch. Hit in the air to left field and right to McReynolds for the second out. As Hamilton goes down to first, wringing his hands. Shelby remains at second.
He really was. There, he's blowing on it. He's got his glove on. Sometimes you forget you got your glove on. You're blowing on your hands. Doesn't do any good. But he hit that ball off the end of the bat. As we said earlier, you'll see a lot of balls hit off the end of the bat. And here it is right here. A little looper to left field. And Jeff going down to first base, just wringing that right hand right there.
2 down now. Dodgers on top 3-1, and Alfredo Griffin comes to the plate.
Vibrating bats today. Bees in the bats.
1-0 the count on Griffin. A Dodger-A's World Series would reunite some old friends. Alfredo would go back to play against the team whence he came. Mike Davis, also of the Dodgers, and Jay Howell. Bob Welch of the A's would face his ex-mates. Welch, of course, will work against Boston tonight in Game 3 of the American League Championship Series. Tim Belcher came from the A's, and Rick Honeycutt went the other way. And Dave Stewart is a former Dodger.
Dave Smoke Stewart traded to Texas for Rick Honeycutt. And then Honeycutt goes to Oakland for Tim Belcher.
Right. And both win in the playoffs Wednesday. Two and two on Griffin.
This is how a previous at-bat sets up your fastball. He struck him out with a forkball last time. It looks like he's still looking for that pitch, and he's late on the fastball. So you show a guy a breaking pitch the time before, changes his whole philosophy.
3 and 2 now on Griffin.
Griffin used to have the reputation of swinging at anything. One year, I think, in 618 at-bats, he walked 8 times. This year, 28.
And the 3-2 to Griffin got him swinging. Strikeout number 3 for Darling. And at the end of 3.5, it's the Dodgers 3 and the Mets 1. Let's see, I'm thumbing through the OAG. That's American Airlines Flight 603 nonstop to Cincinnati snack service. Sold out first class, 3 empties in coach. And away they go.
There may not be any empties Monday night when we have to leave, right? Rearranging of some schedules. As the ground crew here at Shea, headed by Pete Flynn, rearranges the infield here.
Well, a shot from Shea Stadium looking out toward LaGuardia Airport. Normally, games at Shea Stadium are interrupted by airplanes taking off over the stadium and the attendant noise, but with bad weather, rainy weather, the winds shift, and so the takeoffs are going in the other direction. There it is. That's how close LaGuardia is to Shea. Bottom of the 4th inning, Dodgers on top 3-1. Howard Johnson still hitless in the series and still hitless in postseason in his career. And as you can see there, Strawberry, McReynolds, and Johnson forming the trio for the Mets. The first team with 3 players to have 20-plus homers and 20-plus runs batted in a season. And the interesting thing here, 20 steals in a season, the interesting thing here is that 2 of those fellas, McReynolds and Johnson, are combined 0 for 17 in the playoffs thus far. And now 0 for 18 as Johnson hits it down to Hatcher unassisted. One away here in the bottom of the fourth inning, and it will bring up Gary Carter.
The catcher, Gary
Take a look at
Carter.
Hershiser. Here's his breakdown through 3 innings, Jim.
Probably a few more pitches than he would normally throw. Of course, he did have the control problem back in the first inning, but that's a perfect example there. Hojo got a good pitch to hit, 2-0, threw him a sinker, he still hit the ground ball.
Gary Carter takes high, ball 1.
That's when you know you're going bad, Timmy, when you get the pitch you want and you still don't hit it. But then again, it shows you how good a pitcher Hershiser is.
One hopper, Hamilton takes care of Carter. 2 gone now with the bases empty in the 4th inning, and Wally Backman will come to the plate.
That's the thing with a guy like Hershiser, too. When he has a 3-run lead, it's now a 2-run lead, of course. But when he has that lead, he can afford to throw more fastballs than breaking balls.
It's a great luxury when you have the good velocity, the good movement on the ball, and it goes down, and you don't have to worry about the fly ball or the line drive. You just hit the top of the ball. It results in a lot of ground balls. You let your infielders do the work.
Backman takes a strike, and the count 0-1.
Before he made that pitch, Hershiser was yelling at Mickey Hatcher, the first baseman, to move in just in case Backman thought about bunting.
Well, that is something that Hershiser, or actually Mickey Hatcher, talked about. He said, I really feel comfortable at first base, but I don't feel comfortable with the pitchers. I don't know, what their range is. So he says, I'd like to move in. And he tried to do that with Tudor, and this is how Tudor hurt his hip. Tudor said, no, you just play back. I'll get to first base. So he had to make a tag play, and the injury resulted.
2-1.
We have been critical of 2 guys trying to bunt with 2 outs and nobody on, Kirk Gibson and Howard Johnson in games 1 and 2. It's a totally different situation with Backman now. Backman is a singles hitter, plus the pitcher's up next. So if you bunt here, you want to clear the pitcher. And most of your hits are singles anyway. With a guy like Gibson trying to bunt with 2 out and nobody on, here's a guy who can pop the ball out of the ballpark. And the same thing holds true for Johnson.
Wally Backman, a lot of grounders. He hits a ball in the air. It's usually going to end up in somebody's glove. He has to bunt, has to hit ground balls. I think last year he was second to Marvell Wynn with the best ground ball ratio. And if you talk to Bill Robinson, the hitting instructor, that's what he wants him to do. Hit grounders. His fly balls are caught.
Now Fredo Griffin ranges to his left, throws Backman out, and a 1-2-3 inning. At the end of 4, still Dodgers 3, Mets 1. Back at Shea after this word from your local station. Fifth inning at Shea Stadium as Orel Hershiser leads off for the Dodgers. Los Angeles on top 3-1 in game 3, and Hershiser trying to bunt his way on. Darling takes care of him for the out. So again, we mentioned earlier, Hershiser with 19 sacrifices. You know he can bunt. He figures he might as well try to get aboard leading off in the inning by bunting his way on, but too sharply back to Darling. 1 out.
We led all Major League pitchers, or at least National League pitchers, last year
Second baseman, Steve
with 19 hits. And as you look at Ron Darling, actually not too bad of pitching count, 15 pitches an inning. Doesn't seem like he's had great command of the split finger today. I think the biggest difference that I've seen with him over the year is that he has had that great split finger fastball, which makes his other pitches more effective.
Steve Sachs fouls it off, 0-1.
One of the big reasons that Ron had a tough time developing that split finger fastball is because of the length of his fingers. His fingers are very short. And for the most part, it takes a pitcher with long fingers to throw that splitter.
0-2.
And there it was. In fact, Mel Stottlemyre, the pitching coach, he talks about he's split his fingers so wide it's almost become more of a forkball. And that's a big difference. If you really get your fingers split, it's a forkball, and if you're just barely split, it's more of a split finger.
Loop to shallow right. Back goes Backman to take care of Sachs. So 2 down. Darling now in a groove. He has set down 5 in a row and retired 8 of the last 9. And it brings up Mickey Hatcher, who has grounded out twice. 0 for 2 today, and he's 1 for 5 in the playoffs. Two out, bases empty. 1-0 the count. To the hole and through for a base hit. And that's 4 hits now off Ron Darling. Hatcher with a 2-out single, and it brings to the plate Kirk Gibson, who is 0 for 2 today and 0 for 8 in the series.
Well, it's almost like a good news, bad news scenario. Darling knows that he has good stuff, but he's trailing 3-1. He also knows when he throws the ball in the middle of the plate, he's going to give up some hits, and that's exactly where that pitch was to Hatcher. Hatcher, too good a hitter, 293 on the year, to get a ball in the middle of the plate and not hit hard.
Gibson wraps one into center field for a base hit. Hatcher with 2 out around second and on his way to third as the throw comes back into Johnson. So with 2 out, the Dodgers now have runners at first and third. And one of the interesting matchups in a way in this series coming in were the 2 left fielders, McReynolds and Gibson. And that's the first hit for either. Now Mike Marshall, who's been a big man through the first 2 games. Today he has walked and fouled out. And 361 in similar situations as this during the regular season. 2 out, man in scoring position. Just missing. Carter was moving away, and the pitch inside, ball 1.
You know why he was moving away? Because of Gibson at first base. Gary was trying to set himself up to throw. And a lot of times trying to do that, you take something away from your pitcher.
2-0 the count.
See how Gary is leaning forward. When you're leaning forward as a catcher like that, that means you're over-anticipating the runner at first base trying to steal. And a lot of times that can be to your detriment because of your coming up and taking strikes away from your pitcher.
You won't get that borderline call.
That's right.
I can't believe, though, they're going to throw through. You just can't afford to give up another run. Gibson has only been thrown out 4 times all year.
I don't know, Jim. I don't think Hatcher runs that well anyway.
In there, and the count is 2-1.
The big thing is, I don't know whether Gibson's going to be as apt to run right here with Marshall up there, and Marshall's driven in with, as you saw, had 3 hits and 5 at-bats with 2 outs and a runner in scoring position.
Absolutely.
So he may just play a passive game. He has so far.
Yeah, I wouldn't think they'd want to take the bat out of Marshall's hands in this circumstance. Gibson's going to go, though, and the pitch is grounded to short. Johnson is up with it, throws to first, and the inning is over. So Darling escapes damage as the Dodgers leave 2 in the 5th at the end of 4 1/2. 3-1 Los Angeles. Shea Stadium. A lot of fun, guys, here at the top of the 90-meter ski jump, isn't it?
I'll tell you. Freestyle skiing, right?
Absolutely. Well, one thing, this game becomes official after this half inning because we will have played 5. A light rain falling, but again, the forecast calls for improvement. It's supposed to be clearing up later this afternoon, so we shouldn't have any difficulty getting 9 in today.
Pardon me, Al, but in some respects, it's lighter now than it was an hour and a half ago.
Here's Darling leading off in the bottom of the 5th inning, taking a strike in the count 0-1. Darling, Wilson, and Jeffries. One and 1 to count. Tomorrow, night game, 8 Eastern time, game 4. John Tudor gets the start for Los Angeles and Dwight Gooden for the Mets. 2-1. And again, because of the rain out last night, 15 pushed back to Monday afternoon, noon Eastern time, Monday. 2-2.
It's interesting. Third game, third umpire, all different strike zones. It appears that Joe West has a little bit more of a higher strike zone than for National League umpires.
Hammers at it, doesn't get it, and down he goes. So Darling strikes out for the second time. That's 4 strikeouts now for Hershiser. And there, of course, is Gooden on the left and Strawberry on the right. Looking on with 1 out in the bottom of the 5th inning, and Mookie Wilson coming to the plate. That strikeout, he's 0 for 2, was on a wild pitch in the 3rd inning, and he has scored the Mets' only run today. And he hits it down the line in left field. Gibson having trouble and somehow makes the catch. One for the all-time highlight reel right there. Kirk Gibson slipping and sliding and somehow unbelievably making the catch. I didn't think he had a prayer as he was going down.
That's a credit to his athletic ability right there. And the somehow is the key word here, Al. And you can see for yourself, somehow he keeps going. I mean, stumbling, falling. I didn't think he'd get his glove back up. But look at the concentration. Look at him watch the ball into the glove. Oh. You know, last night during that rain delay, talking about him being a receiver at Michigan State. And he was talking about the fact that, and I mentioned, I said, it really seemed to me you had to learn how to play this game. And he said, I didn't have to do that in football. But there, I mean, you're not a receiver if you don't watch the ball into your hands. And right there, he did it into his glove.
He stayed in bounds.
Yes, sir. Touchdown. 2 out, and Jeffries at the plate. Upon further review, the play stands. Fly out to left. Hit sharply on a hop to Hatcher, and this game is now official. Mets gone in order. To the 6th we go in game 3. It's the Dodgers 3 and the Mets 1.
The National League Championship Series, brought to you by Stroh's and Stroh Light. Fire brewed for smooth, consistent taste. Stroh's is spoken here.
Kirk Gibson, it's going to be a great feeling. You come back to the dugout and describe the play to all of your teammates. And there he was reaching back. Remember, he came in with that hamstring pull having bothered him for a month. He just wanted to make sure everything was all right.
Tell you, when Kirk came back in the dugout, who approaches him but Mickey Hatcher, who's ahead of the stuntmen. And that was some stunt Kirk pulled in left field.
That's what the Dodger extra men have named themselves.
Yeah.
Hatcher wanted to know, hey, who was your double on that play? Sensational catch.
I guess that name came about when down in Vero Beach in spring training, they wouldn't let those guys practice on the same field with the regulars. So they think we better stick together. And they said also we're pretty anonymous.
Darling behind, 3 balls, no strikes on Shelby. Starting the 6th inning, and Shelby walks on 4 pitches. So Shelby's had a perfect day. 2 walks and a single. Darling has walked 3. The 2 other walks both came back to burn it because he walked Marshall and Shelby in the 2nd inning, and both scored. And then the Dodgers got their 3rd run in the 3rd when Sack singled, stole 2nd, and scored on 2 ground balls. And again, recall, when the Mets were down 2-0, they opted to play the infield back with Sacks at 3rd and 1 out, and Gibson grounded out, and that made it 3-0. Sosha at the plate. Takes outside, ball 1, 1-0.
An interesting thing about a baseball on a cold day, it seems like it becomes more slippery, it becomes colder. I mean, all your pitches, unless you throw a spitball, are thrown using the seams in some way. Tougher to control. The only advantage is there's the high humidity. It gives you a little bit more feel.
More moisture in the hands.
Shelby, who had 16 steals during the regular season. And Darling behind now, 2 balls and no strikes on Sosa.
The one thing Davy Johnson did tell us before the game last night is that David Cone would be available for a couple of innings this afternoon. He's expected to start next Tuesday night in Los Angeles. But don't be surprised if you see David Cone up and throwing if the Mets need a middle reliever.
And he will begin to stir around very shortly in the New York bullpen.
The only way that Johnson would use Cone is if the game is close.
And the phone is ringing in the pen. In there for a strike, and the count 3-1. They'll have to take the tarp off the bullpen mound, the starters. Darling sending Shelby back. And more seriously. And there's the ground crew removing the tarp in the Mets pen. There goes Shelby. The pitch is a strike. The throw to second is a strike, but too late. So Shelby with a stolen base. And the Dodgers with a man at second and nobody out, and a 3-2 count.
Well, you're seeing the end result of an incredible jump by Shelby. Will give you an idea of how slow the track is. The throw almost beats him as you look at the tag of Hojo. Reaching in as you see Shelby's feet already on the bag. I mean, excellent throw, but too good a jump.
And that's popped up. Gary Carter comes back toward the temporary seats, but it's well back into the permanent seats as well. Still 3-2.
Now take a look at Shelby. He is off and gone. Carter up with a good throw. 14th steal. They've only thrown 2 runners out with Darling on the mound and Carter catching this year. And it's really hard to tell. I mean, it appeared that he made a good throw. Yet the jump is so substantial, you can't really tell if it's Carter or in fact it's just Darling let him get too big a lead.
Foul away again, still 3-2. You know, the Dodgers now have activity in the bullpen. Alejandro Pena is up. You would think maybe just getting in a little work. He's the setup man. The way Hershiser's going, you would figure they'd continue on with Oral. But maybe there's a little method to Lasorda's madness here as Socia hits a fly ball to right field. Tagging at second to Shelby, but he's not going anywhere as Strawberry makes the catch. 1 away. You know, I'm just thinking with the faith Lasorda has in his bullpen, if he knows he gets the Hershiser spot in this inning, he has a chance for a big inning. He has a chance to blow the game open. It could be in the back of his mind that he would think about going to his pen. And then, of course, if you've got to bring Hershiser back on 3 days rest, he will have pitched that much less. Just some speculation, some food for thought.
Well, it puts them in a position that if they would win today and then the Mets come back and win 3 in a row, he has a rested ace for the final ball game. So it's, of course, that's a lot of ifs.
At least he's giving himself the option here because they're down to the number 7 spot in the batting order in Hamilton. So Tommy could be forced into a situation where he's got 2 on and 2 out. Or he could have the bases loaded 1 out. There's Hershiser for the moment.
Well, the point you make is certainly valid because Pena's not just up and throwing. I mean, it's raining, it's cold. He's up there for a purpose right now.
Right. And he's giving Lasorda the option.
Right.
Tommy is giving himself the option is what it amounts to.
For instance, if the bases are loaded and 1 out, if Hamilton gets on and Griffin walks or something of that nature, then you use the pinch hitter. Probably. Otherwise, Pena has no business of being up.
Absolutely. 1-0 the count. Fouled away, and it's 1-1. So Hamilton hitting here with Shelby at second base and 1 out in the 6th inning. Dodgers on top 3-1.
A lot of people think that when a ball hits the mask that it doesn't hurt. That ball is spinning, and believe me, it can twist your face in all sorts of distorted ways.
One and two. And you know that from first-hand experience.
Certainly do. 4 decades of being contorted.
Sixth inning, 3-1 Dodgers. And the 1-2 pitch coming to Hamilton. 2-2.
You have to give Ron Darling a lot of credit. I mean, awful conditions, inclement weather, and he does not appear to have great command of his pitches. Yet he is still trying to do what he has to do, which is make perfect pitches, and sometimes he's been able to.
And it's 3-2. Shelby at second. 1 out.
One thing that can be said about Gary Carter, he does give you a good target. And he said one of the most important things, talking about Ron Darling, is picking up that target. It seems like it's such an assumed thing. But when a right-handed pitcher throws to a right-handed batter, usually you pick up the hitter first. So you really do have to concentrate on the glove.
A slanting rain falling, and the 3-2 pitch is ball 4. And as far as the Dodgers are concerned, it can rain from now till eternity. This is an official game, 6th inning. The Dodgers on top 3-1. Stottlemyre and Johnson.
Shortstop
Hershiser for the moment will come out on deck as Alfredo Griffin comes to the plate. And again, Payne is still throwing in the bullpen. Griffin, twice a Darling strikeout victim today. 1 for 9 in the series. Joe Malfitano looking back into the dugout for a sign from Lasorda, and that sign is get a hit. So the number 8 hitter at the plate, Hershiser, who is on deck, has thrown 73 pitches to this point. And again, Pena is still throwing in the bullpen, and we'll see what Lasorda decides to do next. With Dodgers at first and second, and 1 out of the 6th. So 2 out, and Hershiser took a look back into the dugout to see what Tommy wants to do. And he'll come up. This is one of those situations. In the regular season, there would be no question that Hershiser would hit. But in postseason, you got to think about the whole panoply.
Oral Hershiser.
Well, he got second-guessed the other night for bringing in his ace reliever.
And the minute Hershiser comes up, Pena sits down in the bullpen.
Here he is. He brings in Howell with 21 saves, 26 saves to come in to get 1 out, and everybody says you should have left him in.
And Hershiser hits it off the foot of Amalfitano. Joey's all right, obviously. Pretty good infielder in his time. One-time bonus baby with the New York Giants.
That's right. Back in 1954, and that was the age when if you signed for more than $4,000, The big league club used to have to carry you, I believe, for 2 years, right? Harmon Killebrew was in that position. So was Joey Amalfitano.
0-2.
Sandy Koufax, I believe, was in that position also with Brooklyn. Went to Lafayette High School in Brooklyn.
You know, if he hadn't been a Giant, we could have called him the Artful Dodger after that move. 20 years, Tim.
No balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 2 on. And Hershiser fouls it back out of play. It's still 0-2.
Matter of fact, that's the way I stayed in the big leagues my first year.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
66.
65. You can protect one guy, or you can protect as many as you want, but you could send out one guy in your entire minor league organization. Trying to cut down on large bonuses.
After you signed, right?
No. A couple of years earlier, they had given Bob Bailey about $200,000 to sign with the Pirates.
Pittsburgh Pirates, I think 61,
The 1-2 to Hershiser, struck him out. So he struggles through the 6th, but down go the Dodgers against Starling, still 3-1 LA. Shea Stadium in New York, Al Michaels with Jim Palmer and Tim McCarver, Game 3 of the National League Championship Series. Goodyear Blimp hovering high above Shea Stadium as we get set to go to the bottom of the 6th inning. And in between innings, Oral Hershiser.
He thinks it's a beer league game. Look at this guy. You talk about loose. What playoff pressure.
He did say that he wants the ball in the big games, and this is a big game. I mean, not just because it's a playoff game, but if you're sitting on the bench, you're going to pitch tomorrow night, and you're John Tudor. Do you want him to win tonight or this afternoon or not? And, of course, the same thing goes for Dwight Gooden. And he wants to see his team come back and score some runs and make him be a little more relaxed when he goes out there.
Keith Hernandez starts the bottom of the 6th inning. He'll be followed by Strawberry and McReynolds. 1-0 the count.
I mean, Orel talks about how he, going through the minor league system, he was more of a suspect than a prospect. Slight, wore glasses.
1-1. And we talked about the Lasorda influence the other night. The nicknaming of Hershiser, Bulldog. He's trying to change his approach. 2-1 the count. So Keith Hernandez starts the bottom of the 6th inning with a single. It's the first time in the game the Mets have had the leadoff man on. And it brings up Darryl Strawberry.
That's the difference in the game so far. The Mets have had the leadoff runner on in 1 inning, and the Dodgers in 4 of 6.
And in 2 of those 4, the man came in to score.
You saw the intensity in Hershiser's face right there. But when you're 2-1 and throw the fastball to Hernandez, you're asking for trouble.
Now Strawberry takes a strike, and the Dodger bullpen will get busy again. And this time for a different reason. Lasorda had it busy to give himself an option in the bottom of the 5th. But now he's got him up back of Hershiser because the Mets have started the bottom of the 6th inning with a Hernandez single. Strawberry at the plate. The count is 1-1. And That's Pena up again, and Rick Horton, the lefty, throwing. Strike, 1-2.
He's thrown in 3 fastballs, and as we mentioned before, Strawberry hurt him with a curveball earlier in this game and in game 1 in the 9th inning. So he is stuck with a fastball. Let's see if he comes back inside with a fastball. Yes, sir.
And it's hit to left field, curling away from Gibson, dropping for a base hit. Hernandez stumbles, rounding second, falls down, throw comes back to second, now to third, in time there. Hernandez tried to swim his way into the bag. He stumbled rounding second, fell down, got up, throw came into sacks with Strawberry sliding into second. Steve decided to throw back to third, and they get Hernandez trying to dive into the bag in quicksand.
Hernandez had the right idea by wanting to go to third, and now he holds up too late. The throw goes into second, and by the time he comes to third, he crawls into third base. They have him by, I think, the length of a finger.
And Hamilton takes the bag away from him with his foot. Enough of it anyway. So the Dodgers get a big break. Strawberry at second with 1 out, and McReynolds hits a grounder to Hamilton. He looks Strawberry back, and Hatcher can't dig it out. He's off the bag. He was able to dig it out of the dirt, but the first base umpire Renner says he came off the bag, and here comes Lasorda.
Either off the bag or he didn't have control. You got to have control when you're on the bag.
And Tommy wants to know firsthand. And now it's being said he cradled the ball.
He didn't have to, right between his glove and his chest, and that's not control.
Right.
And Bob Davidson, the second base umpire, coming in to tell Lasorda he didn't have possession of it. He cradled it.
Here it is one more time. You've got to have control now. He caught the ball. It was grasped firmly to his chest, but he never had control. It squirted out.
You can see
The ball
it
squirted out.
coming out of his glove and into his bare hand
Right.
as McReynolds crosses the bag.
Valiant effort by Hatcher, but he did not have control of the ball. An error on Hamilton.
He made the right play, keeping it in front of him, and then tried to fool the umpire.
So it's an error, a throwing error, but a big bugaboo for the Dodgers down the stretch in September was defense at first base. And even though Hamilton gets the error, Stubbs had a lot of trouble. He made a lot of errors in September. And Hatcher, of course, is a part-time first baseman, having trouble digging balls out.
Yeah, that was one of those in-between hops, however. The short hops are the ones closer to you. Those in-between hops that land somewhere in the torso area, those are really tough to handle.
Johnson at the plate, Strawberry at second. McReynolds at first with 1 out. And that's grounded down to Sachs. To Griffin, 1, back to first, not in time, and only because the grass is so wet and the dirt is so muddy in the infield. Otherwise, that ball gets there a lot more quickly to Sachs, and they turn a 4-6-3. But it slowed it down enough so they can only get the fourth, and the inning is still alive.
And also a great slide by McReynolds into second base. Now see how aggressive he comes in. Griffin's going to have to jump over him right there. Doesn't get as much on the throw. Good speed by Hojo.
With 2 out, runners at first and third, and Gary Carter coming to the plate. Dodgers. Gary 0 for 2 today. Base hit into right field. Strawberry makes it 3-2. Griffin cuts the throw off. Johnson stops at third.
This is one of the zaniest, craziest innings I've ever seen in my life. 1 run is scored with all the animation on the bases. Hernandez being thrown out at third. The bobble at first base. And Carter going to right field. Just as unusual. Gary Carter doesn't do that but a handful of times all season. And here he trickles one through on the right side to score the second run for the Mets. Man.
So it's 3-2 and Backman at the plate. 2 out and 2 on.
Now the Mets have the crowd on their side. They haven't had the crowd up to now.
1-0.
They've had them on their side, but they've been very quiet and pensive.
Now Dave Magadan has come out on deck. If Backman prolongs the inning, Magadan would bat for Darling. 2-0 the count. Or if nothing else, they've just sent Magadan out there with the bullpen busy and McDowell getting ready to throw because they just don't want Darling standing out in the rain. So it could be a decoy, possibly. If nothing else, they want Darling back in the dugout. And Backman hits a ground ball off Hatcher's glove, and that's going to tie the game. Lasorda's still furious over that call when Hatcher, cradling it, has just seen the lead evaporate. And we talked in the first game and a little bit here, even though it wasn't necessarily applicable on that throw by Hamilton, but the right side of the infield, especially at first base, defensively has hurt the Dodgers down the stretch.
True. And that ball is going to be an out because it's hit slowly. Steve Sachs is playing. Now, Hatcher does what his instincts tell him, but we're talking, and what you said earlier, Al, not a very good defensive first base position for the Dodgers, whether it's Stubbs or Hatcher. Dives for it, instincts take over, take another look from it from right field. Sachs is right behind that ball for the third out. Crazy inning.
It'll be scored a single, and a run batted in, and Magadan bats for Darling. McDowell in the bullpen. Low ball 1. So Darling works 6. McDowell will come in the 7th. Carter at second. Backman at first. And the 1-0 misses ball 2. 2-0.
Sometimes the nature of the way the game is played takes on the conditions under which it is played. And I think this is one of those games. Miserable conditions and not a well-played game. The Dodgers score 3 runs on 2 infield outs and an error, and the last 2 runs the Mets have scored, one a little trickle through ground ball, and the other one The ball hit by Backman off the glove of Hatcher. And he has every reason to smile now.
Which is something you almost never see
During a game.
Right.
That's right.
And a big grin from Stottlemyre as well. Taking all the way, Magnet looks at a strike. 3-1.
I'm sure it's something that Mel said to Davey, but it also could be that it looks like Hershiser's a little bit out of sync. He is not the pitcher he was over the last month. And as you talked about the conditions today, could be one of the reasons.
I think sync's the right word to use here. Not as wet as one.
Three and two.
Inning, only one ball's been hit hard, and that's the leadoff hit by Hernandez. Flare to left by Strawberry.
And usually you don't get a reprieve when you make a base-running blunder like Hernandez did.
Of course, what set that up was Gibson slipping and thinking he could go to third. So, as you said, the field has a lot to do. Yeah,
that's true.
Tough out, mainly because he hits the ball where it's pitched. So if Hershiser tries to induce him to hit the ball with a sinker away, he's probably going to go that way with the ball.
3 and 2, 2 out. The runners are going. Carter from second. Backman from first. They're off, and the pitch is grounded to Hamilton, and Hamilton tags Carter for the fourth. So this bizarre inning is over. The crowd explodes. The Mets get two. We go to the seventh, and a 3-3 tie. So after a wild bottom of the sixth inning, and by the way, on Darryl Strawberry's ball, they give him a single. Gibson got an error on that play, allowing Strawberry to go to second. That was the play that ended with Hernandez falling down and being thrown out at third. So in the inning, 2 runs, 4 hits, and 2 Dodger errors, and a 3-3 tie as we go to the seventh inning at a rainy and brutally cold Shea Stadium in New York. Temperature still in the mid-40s. Game 3, the series even at a game apiece. The game tied 3-3, and in the seventh inning, Roger McDowell to the mound for the New York Mets. So Darling will get no decision after yielding 3 runs and 5 hits through 6. And it's Sachs, Hatcher, and Gibson coming up in the top of the seventh. Boy, so many things to mull over in that bottom of the sixth inning. Every little thing was magnified, including Howard Johnson's force play grounder, Grass slowing it down, and then McReynolds helping to eliminate any possibility of a double play with a hard slide at second. Backman's grounder off Hatcher's glove.
Yeah, the one thing that a slow ground ball will allow, it'll allow the runner to get down on top of the shortstop and the second baseman and take him out. And that was a big play in that inning. Here's the ball Johnson hit with 1 out and runners in first and second. Watch the slide by McReynolds. As Al said, the grass holds up the ground ball, allowing McReynolds to get down and take out Alfredo Griffin. McReynolds slid a little bit out of the baseline, but as long as you can touch second base. Brings you back to Hershiser's consecutive scoreless innings when Brett Butler went out of the baseline.
And Paul Runge, who was umpiring today at third base, was the man who said he slid out of the baseline and enabled that streak to continue. So the game now in McDowell's hands. In the seventh inning, 2-1 the count on Steve Sachs. 2-2.
McDowell, Mike Schmidt said, one of the great sinkers, very few breaking balls, great fielder. And He's a great fielder, even in conditions like this, because normally he will land in a perfect fielding position, ready to go left or right.
Sacks done on strike.
But when you throw that sinker, you don't have to feel the ball. I want to get a good idea of how a ball sinks. Just watch the trajectory of some of his pitches. I mean, it looks like it's about a foot. And your job as a hitter is to try to lay off that, but it looks so tempting. Even when you hit it, you hit the top of the ball.
Hatcher. 1-0 the count.
The guys in this situation will tell you, you're going to move up in the box, try to get the ball before it sinks. And good sinker ballers just start making the ball down, down, down.
And when sinker ballers are tired, their sinker's a lot better, right? And Roger McDowell, tired. He's had about 3 hours sleep because he's been at the hospital with Karen McDowell. She gave birth to their first child yesterday. Logan Dean McDowell.
Backward throws Hatcher out. 2 down. So the new pop working here in the 7th. And he's the pitcher of record. And here comes Gibson, who's 1 for 3 today and 1 for 9 in the series.
An interesting thing what you said, Timmy. Here's a low ball hitter, and what McDowell, and even though McDowell knows he's a low ball hitter, his strength is the sinker. If he throws him belt high pitches, and he's pitching really to the benefit of Kirk Gibson. So what he'll do is just make him swing at sinkers that are a little bit lower than he'd like it, and the result should be a ground ball.
Sinker ball pitcher, it's a dangerous assignment when they have to pitch to Gibson. As you said, a low ball hitter. You get it down and in, he can hit it as far as anybody.
And here he is trying to bunt again.
I don't believe it. I just don't understand it.
I mean, I know Marshall's going good, and you want him to have a chance at bat, but not when you have home run capabilities.
There are 2 outs. That's the second time Kirk has tried to bunt with 2 outs and nobody on. And here it is again. I mean, certainly he has a chance to steal second base if he does get on, granted. But the odds are better for him to hit an extra base hit, especially against the sinker ball pitcher.
Especially against the best fielding pitcher in the National League, so says Mike Smith. But this is a game of emotion. Sometimes they're not always right. I'll tell you what, if Kirk Gibson would bunt off me, I wouldn't go up and kiss him, but
That's right.
I'd give him a hug.
You've always been a little bizarre.
Yes. Well, you would. I mean, here you are in a tie ball game. You want the home run hitters bunting. He's doing you a favor.
He really is.
2 out, bases empty. And Gibson hits a fly ball to center field. Wilson started in. Now has to go back and has plenty of time to get there and make the catch. Looking up into the raindrops at the end of 6 1/2. Dodgers 3, Mets 3. Well, it's so funny how this one turns around. You know Lasorda is dying to, if he can, get Hershiser out of the game if they can rally and score a couple of runs, and that's why he had Pena in the bullpen. And in the best of circumstances, he might have had a 4-1 or a 5-1 or a 6-1 lead, and he'd have a more well-rested Hershiser, but it doesn't work out that way. He has to leave him in, and now the game is tied as we go to the bottom of the 7th inning.
He's got to leave him in for 2 reasons. Number 1, he's his best pitcher. Number 2, he nicknamed him Bulldog. Bulldogs don't leave in this type of weather.
Mookie Wilson in the bottom of the 7th inning. 2-0 the count. Wilson, Jeffries, and Hernandez in a 3-3 tie. Strike, 2-1.
It's an interesting thing. You want them ready for Game 7, but on the same hand, you want to get to Game 7. And
that's the dilemma.
Yes.
That's a strike, and the count 2-2.
But you can see when you get a check swing on a 2-1 fastball in the 7th inning, that's an indication of how well he has continued to throw. He's throwing as well now as he was in the first inning. Two. Dodger bullpen active again. It's like Jesse Orozco is up, and whenever you see Orozco or Ricky Horton up, you think Hernandez and Strawberry are coming up in that inning, and that's the case here in the 7th.
And there's Pena throwing with him as well. 2-2 the count.
That brings up a good point, and a lot of people have suggested to Davy Johnson, something we really haven't touched on, that if you separated Hernandez and Strawberry, you may not make them as susceptible to left-handed pitching.
Sandwich McReynolds in between.
Exactly. And Davy said, I'm not sure that Darrell wouldn't take that as maybe something that he would not like and feel that it's a demeaning act.
He moved him into the number 4 spot last year to bolster his confidence, and he certainly did that. And for that same reason, he doesn't want to take him out of the 4 spot. Therein lies the dilemma.
Yep. 3-2 on Wilson.
Of course, the thing to look at is velocity is still good, but how about control? How about movement on the ball? How about making quality pitches? And you have to do that in the 7th inning to be successful.
And Wilson is on.
It's a pretty good pitch, except that all day long, you get it going back, and it's not that Joe West missed that pitch. He has not given Hershiser the low pitch. Take a look right here. Look at the glove. A little bit off the plate. He tries to frame it, talking about Socia. Wilson, who does not walk a lot, takes it for ball 4.
I'll tell you, it's an interesting, you talked about framing it. Whenever a catcher turns the glove over to the ground, an umpire a lot of times thinks that's an indication that it's too low. And that's what Socia did then, like a pizza pan. He turned it to his left, had the webbing facing the ground, and that's probably why he didn't get the call.
1-0. For Lazo, sending out the signs.
Now it's Davy Johnson's turn for the options. Contact hitter, ground ball pitcher, good bunter, fast runner.
Yep. Wilson 15 steals during the regular year. Hamilton charges from third. Jeffries squares, pitch away, ball 2. 2-0.
This is where you might think if you're Tommy Lasorda's getting tired. Impeccable control, average a little bit over 2 walks per 9 innings. He knows Jeffries bunting, or at least he's squared around, and he still can't throw a strike. That's a pretty good indication. Maybe the weather has taken its toll.
Bunted foul, and the count is 2-1.
Bad ball.
Yes, really helped him out. You judge for yourself. It's 2-0. Is this a ball? Appeared to be.
Yep.
Of course, also, as you said, Timmy, it's the ball you see. It's up by your eyes. And whether you're bunting or hitting, you think you can sacrifice, especially on a ball away, and especially if you're a self-confident young man like Greg Jeffries.
Nobody on. 2-1 the count.
Jeffries has a lot of things going for him, but the only thing he doesn't have going for him is experience. You saw that base running in the 2nd game.
Wilson goes, and it's chopped down to Hamilton. Over to Hatcher for the out. So with a runner going, Jeffries chopping it to third for the out. And Wilson now at second with 1 gone. And up comes Keith Hernandez.
Hit and run, and you've got to put the ball in play, preferably on the ground, and a good piece of hitting by Greg Jeffries. He is responsible for putting the ball on the ground. The bunt was on for the first 3 pitches, and now they're going to walk Hernandez intentionally.
So with first base open, they're going to walk Keith. Strawberry up next. Orozco still throwing in the bullpen. And we'll see what Lasorda does here. The funny thing is, they went out and they got Rick Horton in August from the White Sox for one reason, to work against left-handed hitters in critical situations, but Horton struggled in September. So they're back now to going to a Roscoe lefty against lefty in these types of situations, if that's what they're going to opt for here. Peronoski goes to the mound.
They may be talking about how to pitch Strawberry, too.
Or how they want to pitch him.
Yeah.
First time up, he threw him a sinker away, and he grounded out to short, hooked him for a double. Last time threw him another sinker, and he flared into left field for a single.
That sinker was inside, though. I think they're going to try to work Strawberry inside and not try to waste the curveball away. Just go right to the weakness and pound him in. Let's see.
You do have a guy on deck that's 0 for 10, right? Now, you don't want to put the go-ahead run at third and just walk him, but it does give you some options.
Outside, ball one.
What's an interesting thing about the way the Dodgers defense Strawberry, they are playing him to pull. Center fielder is over in right center, yet they're going to pitch him away.
Socha sets up outside. Ball two.
Tell you another interesting thing. It was Darryl Strawberry who was walked intentionally twice this season. Once by Whitey Herzog of the Cardinals with first and third and one out in the 11th inning on a Monday night game. And the next series, Jim Leland of the Pirates walked him in the 6th inning, first and third and one out.
Ooh, 2-1.
Rarely this season has Hernandez been walked to get to Strawberry.
In any season.
In any season, that's right. But particularly this season, since Strawberry the last 2 years has become such a dominating offensive player.
Three with one out in the 7th. 3-1. Reynolds, hitless for the series, waits on deck. Hit down to Sachs. To Griffin, one. To first, and Hatcher digs it out. Double play. So they get Strawberry to hit into a DP on a 3-1 pitch.
Ladies and gentlemen,
teetering on the brink, Hershiser works his way out of a 7th inning jam with the pitcher's best buddy.
Yes, and how does he do it? Throws him a sinker away. Darryl tries to pull it. Results a ground ball to Sachs. Griffin turns it. And here's the key of the play right here. Mickey Hatcher, who trapped that ball earlier, comes up with it for the final out. Excellent play.
That was a terrific play by Mickey Hatcher. That in-between hop, whenever that hop ends up right around the waist, you know you have to have softer hands. That was right around the knees. Tough hop, good play.
Mainly going on a wet field. You don't know if the ball is going to skid, come up. He stabbed it.
Well, in the rain and the cold.
Bad on the quaff, too.
0-1 on Marshall, leading off in the 8th inning. And it's quickly 0-2. McDowell ahead on the Dodger cleanup hitter, who is 0 for 2 plus a walk today. And Marshall gone on 3 pitches. Strikeout number 2 for McDowell, who has come out of the bullpen to retire all 4 men he's faced. And it will bring up John Shelby.
Just take a look at how much this ball goes down. And this is the 3rd consecutive sinker diving. I mean, normally you see a pitch like that, it reminds me of Gaylord Perry, and it wasn't legal. For him to be able to have this ability, serious elbow injury, had surgery.
Pitched in only 3 games in professional ball in 1983. 3. That was the year of his surgery.
1-1.
The way he does it is the way he opens up. He gets his shoulder closed, and when he's going towards home plate, he really opens up and allows him to get his body going to his left and his arm going the other way, and you get the great movement that allows the ball to sink.
And like Hershiser, that overhanded sinker is the toughest on a hitter, because when a pitcher drops down, a sinker becomes much more readable. The ones thrown from over the top, very difficult to pick up.
Shelby gone. 3 strikeouts for McDowell in an inning and 2/3. And it will bring up Mike Scioscia. There he was before the game in his Cleveland Browns helmet.
No idea where he got that.
Well, it is football weather.
Yeah. McDowell loves, he's the guy who loves to give you a hot foot, which is not a bad idea today.
He said he doesn't
I'll take it.
He said he doesn't do it to guys that are dressed, though.
1-0 the count on Scioscia. McDowell in his career, it's not a bad line. Going back to 1986. 1 hit in 9 2/3 innings.
And he had a very bad September. And when you asked Mel Stottlemyre, he said because the sinker wasn't sinking. A lot of pitches up in the strike zone. They have not been today, though.
The 0-2 pitch is softly hit back to McDowell, and McDowell falls down, and his throw gets by Hernandez. Backed up by Backman as Scioscia chugs into second. So he truly is as good a fielding pitcher as you'll see in baseball, but that's neutralized by wet grass. And a big break for the Dodgers.
The first pitcher we saw today, Ron Garling, Davey Johnson said he had a shortstop mentality. In other words, he'll get the balls, he'll try to make play at any time. Watch him slip. This is where he makes a mistake. He thinks he can make the play from his knees and doesn't.
I would imagine Tommy Lasorda is going to have a pinch runner for Mike Scioscia. You're in the 8th inning, a tie ball game. You can't take a chance on a base hit. You can't pull for a hit and then not have anybody to run.
And here Jose Gonzalez.
Right.
Who was added to the postseason roster, added in the sense that he became eligible by his insertion into the 24-man postseason roster for the purpose of pinch running, and also because he's a very fine defensive outfielder. They try to protect the lead in the late innings. So Gonzalez comes in to run, which means Dempsey will come in to catch, and Hamilton comes up with 2 on or 2 out and the man on in the 8th inning.
Jim, I'm sure you went through it, but he would not, you know, it's one of those things, you hit yourself in the head, you said, I shouldn't have done that, right? But if you don't think you're going to make the play in the first place, you wouldn't have done it. I mean, it's a very logical thought.
Hamilton, who is hitless in the series, he is 0 for 6 in the 3 games.
You might say, what a bad break for the Mets. Well, this has been a game of bad breaks. Seems like the team with the toughest breaks is going to lose.
And the total's identical. 1-1. Gonzalez, the go-ahead run at second base. And it's 2-1 on Hamilton. And in the Dodger bullpen, as you look at Stottlemyre and Johnson, Jay Howell is throwing. There he is, their closer. If they get down to Hershiser's spot. Hamilton hitting here is the number 7 hitter. And it's 2-2. Grounded toward third, foul. So Gonzalez will go back to second, and the count remains 2 balls and 2 strikes. The Dodgers scored twice in the second and once in the third, and it looked like money in the bank. A 3-0 lead, and Hershiser on the mound. But the Mets came back with 1 in the bottom of the third, and then 2 in a wild bottom of the 6th. And we're tied at 3. Hershiser and Marshall on the bench, with Hamilton standing in. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Here's Gonzalez back of McDowell. Still 2-2.
Almost all hitters hit the top half of the ball when facing McDowell. Only 1 home run hit against Roger this year. That was hit by Bo Diaz of the Cincinnati Reds. That sinker is just tough to lift. More hits, the hard ground balls through the infield. Those are the types of hits you see off McDowell.
It's softly toward third. Going to be a tough play for Jeffries, and it's too late. Hernandez, knowing he had no chance, Gonzalez diving back to third. So Keith stepped off the bag to take the throw and make sure Gonzalez wasn't going to round third and attempt to score. So Hamilton legs it out safely. The Dodgers have runners at first and third. Griffin is due up, but Lasorda may go to the bench.
If Hernandez stays on the bag there, I don't know. I thought Keith thought that ball was, that Hamilton had that play beaten a lot more than it would have shown. If we could see that play one more time, I thought Hernandez came off prematurely. He's off right now. Now the ball gets to him there. I don't know. That might have been poor judgment on Keith's part. Would have been very close, and if he cheats a little bit, he might get the cheat. But I think what happened is Gonzalez rounded third. Keith saw that, and he didn't want to take a chance.
Right.
Here's Gonzalez rounding third now. I think this is what pulled Hernandez off the bag. Keith said, I can't take a chance.
Yep.
And boom, Gonzalez dives back, no play.
And so with runners at first and third and Griffin due up, Mike Davis, who is being paid almost $1 million this season. He was a free agent picked up after his contract had expired with the A's, and the Dodgers went into the free agent market, and they got a guy who had a terrible season. Mike hit 196, but he could pay a nice dividend right here. Randy Myers in the bullpen. Davis started the season as the Dodgers' regular right fielder, and they let him play about 2 months, and then Mike Marshall wanted to move back to the outfield, which made it convenient to put Davis on the bench, and he takes outside, ball 1.
And that's when his season ended.
Gonzalez at third. Hamilton at first base, 2 out, and the 1-0 pitch, missing ball 2, 2-0.
And if you were going to pitch to Mike Davis, his strength, I would say, is down. He's a better low ball hitter than high ball hitter. Dodgers with 3 pinch hits, just pinch hit home runs this year. 2 by Franklin Stubbs and 1 by Mike Davis.
3-0. Hershiser is out on deck. If Davis walks, Lasorda will again go to the bench. And he has Franklin Stubbs, among others, available to come up. 3 balls, no strikes to count. And Davis is on. So Mike walks on 4 pitches. The bases are loaded with 2 out. Hershiser goes back to the dugout. Now you've got Myers in the bullpen. So if Lasorda were to opt for Stubbs, you'd be sure to see Myers. He also has Danny Heap available, and there is Heap. So now Heap, also a left-handed batter. comes out of the dugout, and as soon as he is announced, we will see what Johnson decides to do. Davey is simply waiting right now for the announcement to make sure that Heap is officially in the game before he does anything. So the bases are loaded. With 2 out, Jose Gonzalez, pinch running for Socha, is at third. Jeff Hamilton is at second. And Mike Davis, who drew the walk, is at first. And now here comes Danny Heap, a former Met.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Remember the 1986 World Championship team? Danny, back in 1983, led the majors in pinch hit homers with 4. Davey Johnson remembers that.
And all Johnson was waiting for was the announcement. Now that Heap is officially in the game, Johnson goes to the mound. Johnson goes to the bullpen with the bases loaded, 2 out in the 8th inning. Randy Myers comes in to face the Dodgers in a 3-3 tie. Mike Sharperson's going to come up to hit for the Dodgers. Heap was announced as the pinch hitter, forcing the move to the bullpen. And with Randy Myers warming up, here's the inside pitch on him from Mike Schmidt.
Randy Myers is a perfect closer for the New York Mets. He's got that personality you need when you come in those clutch situations. Never smiles, wants the ball from the manager, and can come right in and throw fastballs. I'm talking 95 miles an hour every time he lets it go. Maybe in the playoffs it'll get up to 98. He'll show an occasional slider to a right-hander. He'll use the slider more often against the left-handed hitters. A good note about Randy Myers is the league is hitting 175 against him.
The league is hitting 175, and Sharperson this season, who spent a good part of the year in the minor leagues, hit 271. As a pinch hitter, Sharperson was 3 for 22, and the only reason he is even eligible for postseason play was the injury to Dave Anderson when his back acted up just prior to the end of the regular season. And the pitch up high to the former Toronto farmhand with Gonzalez at third, Hamilton at second, and Davis at first. Sharperson coming over in a deal with Toronto last year. And up here with the bases loaded and 2 out. Takes high, ball 2, 2-0.
Right field hitter, and about the only thing that could change that is this count. 2-0, bases loaded. You got to throw a strike. If not here, you don't want to go 3-0.
Myers has only walked 17 this year, struck out 69, about a 4-to-1 ratio, which is excellent, but behind here.
And it's ball 3, 3-0.
Again, tough situation, and it's interesting. We're driving home the other night. Johnny Bench on radio was saying that the one thing about the playoffs, every game is different. And what's also different, you don't know how players are going to react.
Taking all the way, it's a strike. 3-1. Sharperson, who last year was the Toronto Blue Jays opening day second baseman, but wound up in the minors, subsequently dealt to the Dodgers. And the 3-1 pitch to him is a strike, 3-2. He couldn't talk his way into ball 4.
Or walk his way into ball 4. As he tried to do right here.
So the runners will be going. 3-2 with 2 out, and the pitch is popped foul out of play, and we'll do it again. 3-3 tie in the 8th inning. The Dodgers with the bases loaded. Gonzalez at third. Hamilton retreats to second. Davis at first. Outfield is shallow and shading him toward right, and Myers working on Sharperson. And the Dodgers take the lead on a bases-loaded walk as Gonzalez makes it 4-3, and all of this taking place with 2 out. And again, another run in this game without a ball being hit out of the infield. McDowell's throwing error, the soft single by Hamilton, and 2 walks. And
difficult to walk only because of the fact that he has to throw the ball that wild. Anything close to 95 miles per hour, you got to get the bat started.
1-0 the count. The Dodgers today got 2 runs in the second without a ball being hit out of the infield. Got a run in the third thanks to a couple of infield outs. And another run here in the 8th without a ball leaving the infield. 1-1 the count. Steve Sachs. One and two. The middle, it's speared by Johnson, who throws in time, just in time. They take care of Sachs, but the Dodgers take the lead with a run on the 8th. It's 4-3 LA.
Watch Howard Johnson. If he doesn't make this play, 2-run score. Mike Davis even scores from second. Johnson looked at second. See that little hesitation, caught in between, and he just gets Steve Sachs at first base. Otherwise, it's a 6-3 game. It's a bang-bang play.
Jay Howell comes in to pitch. As Hershiser goes 7, and it's Orioles' game to win, with the Dodgers taking the lead. 4-3. Rick Dempsey is the new catcher. Gonzalez had gone into pinch run for Sosa. Tracy Woodson takes over at first base. And Mike Sharperson, who drew that bases-loaded walk, pinch hitting for Hershiser, remains in the game at shortstop.
Number 27, Mike Sharperson. At first base, batting second, number 21, Tracy Woodson. Catching and batting 6.
Woodson is going to bat in the number 2 spot. Dempsey is going to hit in the 6th spot. And Howell hits in the number 8 position. As we go to the bottom of the 8th inning. A reminder, following this game, college football, regional action. You will either see the game between Ohio State and Indiana, or Washington against Arizona State, coming right up at the conclusion of this National League Championship Series Game 3. And then, of course, at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific tonight, Game 3 in the American League Championship Series from Oakland. Well, the sun has come out, literally, for the first time today at Shea Stadium. Not so figuratively, though, for the Mets fans in the top of the 8th inning as the Dodgers break the tie, lead 4-3. And now it's McReynolds, Johnson, and Carter in the bottom of the 8th inning. Howell, the loser in Game 1, trying to save Game 3. 1-0 the count.
And losing that game, it all started when he walked McReynolds.
And here he's behind on 2 balls and no strikes. Kevin, during the regular season, 288 with 27 homers, 99 RBIs, but 0 for 10 in the playoffs. And it's 3-0.
Did not throw many fastballs or strikes the other night. As a matter of fact, threw 8 straight curveballs to 2 successive hitters.
Johnson and Carter.
And they give him the green light, and it's 3-1.
Very interesting there. Has a very good fastball in terms of velocity. over 90 miles per hour. He used to throw about 94 miles per hour on the slow radar gun when he was with the Yankees. Now, that's before elbow surgery that he had last offseason.
Fouled away, and it's 3-2. I wonder if they gave him the green light, or did he not see a sign?
I would say they gave him the green light.
Yeah. Even as the leadoff hitter in the bottom of the 8th inning. Down by 1.
Trying to tie it with one swing.
Yep. Pop foul. Dempsey comes back, runs out of room. Still 3-2. Dempsey. Tight, tense ball game, but somebody said something that tickled him.
Davy Johnson asking to look at the ball or the glove, maybe, of Jay Howell.
And they want the crew chief, Harry Wendelstedt, to come in as well. Joe West is the plate umpire. Now, Lasorda wants to know what's going on. And so here's Wendelstedt, the crew chief, and he and West will examine Howell's glove, with Lasorda getting a first-hand look as well.
Well, the other night we were talking about when Alejandro Pena came in, and it didn't look like to be some foreign substance on the back of his glove. Maybe they're a little bit confused. Or maybe he picked up Pena's glove from the bullpen. I doubt if that happened, though.
Now they're looking at the inside of the glove.
You notice Dempsey had his hand in there, and Joe West kind of slapped it out of the way.
And this comes with a count 3 balls and 2 strikes.
It's like a Norman Rockwell painting.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, as an umpire, you have to, number one, make a decision.
That threw him out of the ballgame.
Yeah, look at this. Can you believe this? But obviously, they've got the evidence, because there's only a very mild protest from Tommy Lasorda.
But also,
look at this. Bart Giamatti, the National League president. Now, Wendelstedt is going to take the glove over to Giamatti. And that's Ed Vargo behind Giamatti, who's the supervisor of umpires. Lee Mazzilli comes over for a first-hand look.
Well, to be quite honest, Al,
Former National League president Chubb Feeney there as well.
Not one pitch did anything that would make you believe that it had a foreign substance on it. I'm just talking from an umpire. And usually when you, as an umpire, you see the ball come up there, you could tell whether it's a spitter or it has Vaseline on it, because the ball will react funny.
I wonder if Davy Johnson had any knowledge beforehand. I mean, usually, there you see Dempsey. Now, it's not that funny, I don't suppose. But, I mean, Davy Johnson, I would think, would have to have knowledge beforehand before going out there to check it. There's no way that Davy's going to go out there and say that those pitches did anything differently. He just threw 5 pitches. The other night he was throwing a lot of curveballs.
Yep.
What's the indication? How did he know?
Well, that's what I'm saying. None of the balls acted funny.
No, they didn't go down. Usually, if a ball has a foreign substance, it's going to dip.
Yes. Did he throw his glove out, or did he throw Howell out?
Is he out just for the game or for the playoffs?
In the regular season, he'd be suspended. I mean, that's the next question that has to be addressed here. He's thrown out of the game. Alejandro Pena will come in to pitch. But now the question becomes, what about the rest of the playoffs? And you'll recall the incident with Kevin Gross and the Joe Niekro incident
last year
with Minnesota.
Of course, what brought the umpire out in the Joe Niekro incident was the ball did something funny. He went out there and examined. He found the file, or the nail file in the back pocket. Kevin Gross, are you familiar with that, Timmy? I don't know if he defaced the ball.
There was sandpaper. There was sandpaper in his glove.
Was the ball actually defaced?
The ball was scuffed, yes.
Well, there's no indication of any of those things today, though.
Not from where Davy Johnson was. Joe West is out there. He called in Harry Wendelstedt, and Joe is checking the string. And it seemed that Harry went in to look for moisture, and he found it. He found something, but then he went back into the glove to look for more moisture. That might be one reason that Rick Dempsey was kind of reaching in there to take the glove away. What now, my glove?
Cheat, cheat, cheat is the chant. And this is unprecedented in that this has never happened, to my knowledge, in postseason. So now the question becomes, what about the rest of postseason action? And we'll try to get a clarification on that as soon as we can. That's Ed Vargo again behind Giamatti. Vargo is the National League supervisor of umpires.
Well, it's so interesting is that Pena seemed to have a foreign substance on his glove on Wednesday night at Dodger Stadium. Now, I don't know if he changed gloves, but
you picked up on that the other night, and
well,
we have just been told that the Mets knew on Wednesday night that Jay Howell had pine tar in his glove. And that's why they checked it today. They obviously have not told anybody, and we just found that out, that the Mets knew on Wednesday night that Jay Howell had pine tar in his glove.
And it's a very interesting thing, too. Johnson let the inning start. Howell went 3-0, so he wasn't going to say anything. It went to 3-1, so the count was still in McReynolds' favor, and then when it got to 3-2 is when Davey came out.
Davey just asking what the count was. The count, we may start again with Pena. Maybe the count's not 3-2 now.
Well, if you throw
That's what Davey was saying.
If you throw a defaced ball, the rule book says that the ball becomes a ball, and you warn him once, and then you throw him out of the ball game. Now, he has not thrown a defaced ball as far as my knowledge is, so I don't know if
we'll see.
If the last pitch is the ball or not. Again, the umpires have to make that ruling.
Now we are also more lucid as to why Kevin McReynolds was swinging 3-0.
Absolutely. That tells you the story right there. That's exactly right.
If he pops one out of the ballpark, big deal.
Yep.
Let him keep pitching until he gets the guy out.
And it's funny because the last pitch was a foul ball. So in other words, they couldn't check for a defaced ball. But what you're saying, Tim, it's absolutely right. Had McReynolds popped out, they would have looked at the ball, found the pine tar on the ball, so McReynolds would not have been out. That last pitch, the ball wound up back in the seats as a foul ball.
Right. The only exception to what you just said, Al, is that pine tar does not really go on the ball all the time. What it does, and I've seen a lot of pitchers use it, they said Peronowski was one of the greatest. I mean, everybody felt the reason he had such a great curveball is because he used pine tar, which gives you a better feel on your curveball and a tighter spin.
The late Bob Moose, he couldn't shake hands till November. He had so much pine tar on his hand for 8 months.
So meanwhile, back to the game where it's 4-3 Dodgers. The count is 3-2, and now it's ball 4. So there's Howell, banished from the game. McReynolds draws a leadoff walk here in the bottom of the 8th inning, and Howard Johnson comes to the plate. 0 for 10 in the series.
Well, the other pine tar incident in New York City was George Brett.
The bat.
Yeah, the bat.
Which eventually resulted in Kansas City coming back to finish the game later that season against the Yankees.
So now it's 1-1. One bat, one glove here in New York with the pine tar.
Man, Pena working on Johnson. Around the bunt, misses, strike 1. Perlazo ready to send down the signs from third. Think there have been enough little twists and turns today? Oh, boy. In the air, Pena and Woodson, they let it drop, but it won't cost them because Woodson will get credit for the out. He's going to make the tag here as they erase McReynolds. In a sense, well, both are pretty good base runners. It really doesn't matter, McReynolds or Johnson at first base.
It is a good play by Woodson. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, yeah, it's good because he hopes that McReynolds will try to make a belated dash. He doesn't. Kevin plays it well, and I guess if you look at Kevin's record, 21 steals out of 21 attempts this year, heady base running by Kevin.
And a poor bunt by Johnson, and no wonder. That's his first sacrifice try in 352 at-bats this year.
Well, it goes back to what I said about knowing your players. A lot of times, to ask a player that can't bunt to bunt, you get that kind of result.
So 1 out. Carter at the plate. It's been a long day already for Pena. Remember, he was up about an hour and 15 minutes ago. He was up in the 5th inning when Lasorda was thinking about pinch hitting for Hershiser. And then he was up again. And so this is at least the 3rd different time he has warmed up today.
It's an ironic thing about this game is that you finally get a good matchup, a fastball hitter, Hojo, against the fastball pitcher. You get the first base line and you bunt.
1 out and the 1-0 pitch. Missing for ball 2. 2-0 on Gary Carter. And there is Sandy Carter, Gary's wife.
I think Gary may have confused the Dodgers in the sense that they all say his power is on the inside half, yet he went to right field. He's shown them he is willing to sacrifice power and hit the ball the other way. So Pena figures, well, that pitch on the outside part of the plate that normally is a pitch that he will pull for double play is now a pitch he's going to hit the other way. Well, maybe I have to do something differently.
Foul, 2-1.
Dempsey just came into the game as a catcher. Johnson with good speed at first base, 23 stolen bases. Well, you have to keep that in mind. It's very difficult to come in for late inning defense, particularly as a catcher.
And it's 3-1 on Carter.
Of course, if these are any indication, they usually are with base runners, Hojo's not going anywhere. I mean, very small lead. Of course, I threw to Dempsey for years. Doesn't throw like he used to, but quick release, usually an accurate arm.
There goes Johnson. The pitch is a strike. The throw way offline and hits him. So Johnson with a stolen base, and the count will be 3-2 on Gary Carter.
Most catchers, especially catchers that are on the bench, don't have a chance to warm up. Rick threw a few tosses, but he didn't throw any tosses to second base. And sure enough, a short hop, and the Dodgers are lucky because if this ball doesn't hit Johnson, it might be in center field, and Howard might be on third base instead of second.
Three and two with 1 out. 4-3 Dodgers. Bottom of the 8th inning. In the air to left field. Playable for Gibson. Johnson remains at second, and 2 down now. And Wally Backman coming to the plate. So Carter stymied here. The game 1 hero flies to left. 2 down in the 8th. And Wally Backman coming to the plate. And again, following this game, college football. You'll see either Ohio State against Indiana or Washington against Arizona State next. Wally Backman, 1 for 3 today. Good success against Pena, 4 for 8 with 2 walks in his career. In this series, 1 for 9. And Len Dykstra has come out into the on-deck circle. He would hit for Myers. There's Nails. One to go.
I'll tell you, if Backman drives the run in, I might be inclined to leave Myers in the ball game. He's only thrown 1/3 of an inning. He's your short man. You've already lost McDowell. And if Backman doesn't get a hit, Myers is still in the game anyway.
For the moment, they have Terry Leach throwing in the pen. Backman hits a drive to right center field. Shelby races back. It's by him. It dies on the warning track. The Mets tie the game. Backman has a double.
Pitching is good defense, but you have to throw the pitches where the defense is. They're playing around in left center. You see Shelby with a long run, no chance to get to it. As I said before, usually when he hits fly balls, they're caught, but not when you don't make good pitches and you're out of position.
Dykstra now with the game tied 4-4, which means Myers is out of the game and Leach will come in the 9th inning.
Yeah, with the runner in scoring position now, you've got to use Dykstra. Had Backman had a single, Davey Johnson may have elected to leave Myers in the ballgame. But now the Mets do have a depleted bullpen.
And the Dodgers do as well because Howell is gone. They go with Pena. There's Leach. This is one of those great postseason games where you've got to go to your key men in the bullpen, but then if it's tied, the longer the game goes, you're almost using your bullpen in reverse. You're using your middlemen as your short men. Two balls and no strikes for count.
This game has the earmarks of Game 3 in the 1986 season, and it was won by Len Dykstra on a home run off a forkball from Dave Smith. And he drove in Wally Backman in front of him. Game 3, won in the 9th inning in 1986.
On a Saturday.
On a Saturday. Ron Darling was the starting pitcher that day.
Totals identical each team. 4 runs, 7 hits, and 2 errors. 2 out. 8th inning. Backman at second. And 2-1 on Len Dykstra. Is Mookie Wilson. Lenny's wife, Terry.
Lenny looking down at Sam Palazzo, the third base coach. He wasn't even looking at him. You know he's hitting here. Sam looking at Backman at second base, paying no attention to Dykstra, which means he's wailing away, obviously.
3-2.
Pretty plain and simple. Has not got a changeup over, hasn't got a breaking ball over, just right after you. And that's great if you're making good pitches. But today is not an easy day to throw the ball where you want to. That's what's a pretty good swing.
Still 3-2 on Dykstra.
This is a situation with a winning run on second base that you have to make your pitch. You have a base open. Dykstra can hit as well as Wilson, so if you don't make your pitch, you can sometimes gamble. You walk Dykstra and then try to make the good pitches to Wilson. You do not give in to a hitter in this situation.
Terry Dykstra's reaction on the last pitch. Oh, boy. Three and two with 2 outs. Ball 4, 3-2 changeup to put runners at first and second and bring Mookie Wilson to the plate. The Dodgers sent Perinoski to the mound. They have a Roscoe in the bullpen. Wilson is a switch hitter. And also, Brian Holton is in the bullpen. He is the right-hander. Wilson, as a right-handed batter, hit .282 this year, lefty .311. So there's really not that much of a difference as Perinoski goes to the mound, but enough of a difference that he wants a Roscoe. He wants Wilson to come up as a right-handed batter. So Pena is gone, and Jesse Orosco will make his second appearance in this league championship series, coming in to face Mookie Wilson with runners at first and second and 2 out in the 8th. So Shea Stadium in New York as Jesse Orosco comes in to pitch. A wild, wild game. Now, we're going to take a look back here. Here's Jay Howell. What do you suspect that substance is on the bill of his cap, Jim?
Well, I don't know if it's dirt or it's the fact that when you put pine tar, it's just like if you picked up a pine tar rag and then you put your hand in the dirt, the dirt would stick to your hand, and you go to your hat, which is a nervous reaction, or I doubt if you would put the pine tar there. It's much easier to hide it in your glove or, in between the fingers or inside your glove. So that looks like the remnants of dirt after you've gone to the pine tar. And what the pine tar does on a day like today, it allows you to have better feel of baseball. Now, it is illegal, though.
The rosin is the only legal substance that you can put on the baseball, unless it's dirt. The only abnormal substance.
Bart Giamatti in conference there with Ed Vargo behind him. And it's our understanding, and we'll get this clarified shortly, but there'll be a full evaluation after the game in terms of exactly what the substance was. And again, how it will perhaps impact Howell's future in this series. And as I say, that will take place after the game, and we've got a football game to follow, and Al Troutwig's in the studio, so whatever happens, you'll find out about it as soon as we know anything. Meanwhile, back to the game itself, which is not a bad one. 4-4 tie, bottom of the 8th inning. Mookie Wilson hitting right-handed with Backman the go-ahead run at second. Len Dykstra at first. And 2 out. Ball 1 to Mookie, 1-0.
When Orosco pitched for the Mets, he had a habit of falling behind on balls up and away to right-handed hitters early in the count.
so interesting. Invariably, I'm sure Mookie hit off of, look at Ben Hines and the Dodger anxious bet, but Mookie hit off of Jesse in batting practice, inter-squad games, but the advantage goes to the pitcher. I mean, the mean batting average was like 248 for National League hitters this year. So percentile-wise, percentage-wise, or whatever, the advantage does go to him, but he does fall behind hitters.
Off-speed hit into right center for a base hit. Backman comes in to score, and the Mets lead it 5-4.
Best pitch. Fastball, slider, straight change, and this looked like a straight change.
It looks like actually a hanging curveball, possibly. Something up in the strike zone, exactly where you don't want to throw it, but you got to give this man credit.
Oh, yeah.
He jumped on a high pitch, and not a quality pitch for the go-ahead run.
Jeffries, and that hit him. He's hit by it, and the bases are loaded.
And the Mets got a break, because if that ball doesn't hit him, it's by him, and Dykstra scores.
Dodgers got the break. Yeah.
The Dodgers got the break, right. That's a break for the Dodgers. If that ball doesn't hit Jeffries, it's certainly by Dempsey, and Dykstra walks home.
On the foot, on the toe. And Davey Johnson is out to take a look at him.
And Davey, of course, is thinking down the road. How about tomorrow? Let's get this guy in. Let's freeze his foot if it's not already frozen from this weather. Now I can put Elster at short, I can put Johnson at third, and you really don't hurt yourself defensively. Another angle of him getting hit. Ow. Molly not too happy, having doubled in the tying run and scoring the go-ahead run.
So it's 5-4. Bases loaded with Dykstra at third, Wilson at second, and the hobbling Jeffries at first, and Keith Hernandez at the plate. Eighth man to bat for the Mets in the bottom of the eighth inning. 5-4, New York. 1-0. Looking ahead to the Dodger ninth inning now. Woodson will lead off. Then Gibson and Marshall. Woodson is in the number 2 spot. And again, with McDowell and Myers gone, Leach had been warming up, and I believe David Cone is in the bullpen right now. It is Cone throwing in the Mets pen. 2-1. There he is, the one-time author, throwing in the bullpen. You think there have been a few storylines today? Speaking of authors.
Nobody had a script for today's game, I'll tell you that. Take that kind of pitch and have that kind of discipline is to know what you want to hit. If it's not in that zone, you lay off it. Take your chances with the umpire.
Bases loaded, 2 out, 3-1 the count. 4. To the mound, Karanoski. Due up is Strawberry. And coming in is Ricky Horton. In the 8th, Mets 6, Dodgers 4. All right, Ricky Horton in the pitch. Darryl Strawberry comes up with the bases loaded. They've taken Jeffries out of the game. He was hit by that pitch. And Kevin Elster will go into pinch run for him. So he's at second. Mets lead by 2, and Horton works on Strawberry, who hits it foul down the line and right, and the count is 0-1. Strawberry, the 9th man to come up in the inning. The Mets in the inning have scored 3 times on just 2 hits. Dodgers have yielded 3 walks and hit a batter along the way. 1-1. Ricky Horton came over, we mentioned before, make it 0-2 from the White Sox for Sean Hilligan. He was the White Sox opening day starting pitcher this year. Then went to the bullpen, and finally to L.A. And he misses away here in the count 1-2. Again, Woodson, Gibson, and Marshall when the Dodgers bat in the 9th. Two and 2.
Trying to get Darryl to Tyson to swing at that little breaking ball, what I call a slurve off the plate.
A looper to shallow left field, and it drops in for a base hit. 2 more runs score, 8-4.
Ricky Horton on the fastball, a little looper, a parachute, a mortar shot to left field, and it drops. That is Strawberry's 6th hit in 3 games.
And his 3rd today, and he's driven in 3 runs. McReynolds 1-0 the count.
You have to play Darryl so strong. I mean, so deep because he's so strong that loopers are going to fall in. Now, nobody's going to catch that one.
That's right. Smaller hitters wouldn't get a hit like that. Possibly.
McReynolds up for the 2nd time in the inning. He started things with a walk. And, of course, that was the sequence during which Howell was thrown out of the game. All of that in this inning, it seems like about 2 hours ago. Down the line in left field, and that is just foul. And he broke his bat on it as well. The count 2-1.
Definitely 2 hours if you're a Dodger fan, the way this inning is going. I mean, you bring in your number 1 reliever. He gets thrown out for foreign substances. Look, good angle, and this you can see the way the ball will hook when pulled. It just barely hooks foul. He's out of the ball game, and then you go to Pena, who probably was the next best reliever they have, and he doesn't have very good control. You go to Orozco, who was not very good at all, and then you go to Horton, who gets mortared to left field. Not murdered, but mortared.
Two and two now the count.
And that really is Ricky Horton's most effective pitch to right-hander. He has an excellent changeup, shows you the fastball, has to keep it down. Occasional breaking pitch.
Scoreboard has it 2-1. The count is 2-2 on McReynolds. And he hits a bouncer to third. And the inning is finally over. But the Mets send 10 men to the plate, score 5 times, and lead it 8-4. Al Michaels with Tim McCarver and Jim Palmer, Shea Stadium in New York on a wild and wet Saturday afternoon where the Mets come up with 5 runs in the bottom of the 8th inning and lead it 8-4. And David Cone comes out of the bullpen. He worked 2 innings as a starter in Game 2 and comes out of the bullpen to try to close the door in Game 3.
As Davy Johnson told us, David would have a possible appearance in this afternoon's game. And that went for last night also, since he worked only 2 innings and threw 40 pitches on Wednesday night.
Elster, who pinch ran for Jeffries, stays in the game. He'll play short, and Howard Johnson moves over to third with Jeffries gone. And so Cone now works on Tracy Woodson. Dykstra stays in the game in center field. And the pitch is a strike. 0-1 on Woodson, batting for the first time today. He takes another strike, and the count is 0-2. Cone, the other night, gone after the opening couple of paragraphs, is trying to write the climax today. And the count 1-2. Cone coming out of the bullpen to assume a starting role in May.
That was after 7 relief appearances.
The 2-2 pitch. Got him swinging. Blew it by him. Woodson gone. 1 out of the 9th inning. And Gibson coming up. Again, college football will follow. Another look here. Up and in on him. Again, Howell thrown out of the game. There are the games. You'll see one of those in your region next. Howell thrown out of the game. The word we get from the National League president, A. Bartlett Giamatti, thrown out because an illegal substance was suspected. They will investigate fully and further after the game, and it will be determined what penalty, if any, will apply to Jay Howell. Gibson hits it foul off to the right. And, of course, with our baseball game going into football, and Al Troutwig in the studio will let you know as soon as we know any further. No balls, 1 strike to count on Gibson.
The funny thing with Jay Howell kicked out of the game today, the one guy that David Cone apologized to last night before the game was Jay Howell for his remarks about Jay in the column, the famous column now, that was distributed throughout the Dodger clubhouse Wednesday before the ball game.
One and two. Hooking foul, still a ball and 2 strikes on Gibson.
Tell you, there has been no batter's box since about the 3rd inning. All that stuff to soak up the moisture around home plate. So the batter's box is obliterated, but not the memory of this game, huh? This has been something.
This game is about 3 hours and 40 minutes old at this point, in the top of the 9th. 2-2. Game 4 tomorrow night. Game 5 now is Monday at noon Eastern and 9 in the morning Pacific. Mets trying to go up 2-1. 2-2 to Gibson. Popped up. Elster. 2 out. Marshall coming up. The count. Again, early on, the Dodgers. Hershiser on the mound. A 3-0 lead. Looked like money in the bank. 0-2 the count. Actually, the count is 1-1. The board had it 0-2, and Mike Marshall said, wait a second, what's the count here? And Joe West put up one finger on each hand. Well, what did he put up?
Well, 1-1. Try again.
It's like a game show. It's 1-1, I think.
Like you make the call.
Yeah, right. Forget that. I don't know what any of that means. I think it's 2-1. 2-2. Hernandez drifting back. Might have a play. No, about 3 rows back. So still 2 balls and 2 strikes. To center field. Dykstra had trouble but makes the catch. One of the big heroes was right there. Wally Backman drove in the tying run, scored the winning run as the Mets take the lead in the series 2-1.
There's a guy right there who was out of a job when the season started. 2 years ago, he hit .320. Tim Temple, the other second baseman, was given the job in spring training. Backman hit 180 through May 22nd, and has come back to be certainly the hero of this ball game, or one of them.
So the Mets take the lead in the series, winning today at Shea Stadium by a score of 8-4. Of course, football to follow and a report at halftime on the follow-up to the Jay Howell incident. The Mets win it by a score of 8-4. Al Michaels along with Jim Palmer, Tim McCarver. So long from Shea Stadium in New York. Coming up next, ABC's college football features the Ohio State Buckeyes as they take on the undefeated Hoosiers of Indiana. Or the Washington Huskies battle the Arizona State Sun Devils. Check your local listings for the game in your area. And tonight on ABC Sports, the Boston Red Sox meet the Oakland A's, Game 3 of the American League Championship Series. Aerial footage provided by the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. Mets win it, and we'll talk to you tomorrow night at 8 Eastern from Shea for Game 4.
The National League Championship Series has been brought to you by Old Milwaukee and Old Milwaukee Light. It doesn't get any better than this. By the Heartbeat of America, Today Chevrolet. And by Allstate. For home, auto, and life insurance, you're in good hands with Allstate. This has been a presentation of ABC Sports, recognized around the world as the leader in sports television.